What happens when the person you've built your life around shatters your trust on your wedding day, and instead of falling apart, you rise above the wreckage? On my wedding day, the unexpected happened. My fiancé's first love appeared at the ceremony, wearing the exact same haute couture gown as mine. There they were, standing together at the entrance, greeting the guests as if they were the bride and groom. I kept my composure, offering them a smile and a compliment, saying they looked like the perfect couple, beauty and brains, a match made in heaven. She burst into tears and ran off. But he didn't hesitate to humiliate me in front of everyone. He accused me of being petty and narrow-minded. After the wedding banquet ended, he left for what was supposed to be our honeymoon, with her by his side. I didn't argue. I didn't scream or cause a scene. Instead, I quietly booked an appointment for an abortion. By the time I returned home, it was already late. The moonlight streamed through the windows, casting a cold, desolate glow across the empty space. Exhausted, I dragged myself to the bedroom, only to be met with the sight of colorful wedding decorations still adorning the walls. How ironic, I thought. The ribbons on the bed hadn't even been cleared away, but I was too tired to care. I lazily swept them aside and collapsed onto the soft mattress, feeling the weight of the day pressing down on me. As I plugged my phone into charge, a notification caught my eye. It was from Candy McKinnon on her social feed. The caption read, "Grateful for your presence, not a moment wasted." The photo showed Brad holding her in his arms, their eyes locked, lips nearly touching. Matching rings glittered on their fingers. In the past, I would have stormed over, demanding an explanation. But now? I just turned off my phone, rolled over, and went to sleep. Days passed in silence. Not a single message from Brad. Instead, my feed was constantly flooded with Candy's updates, photos of them kissing, shopping, laughing together, flaunting their happiness for everyone to see. I didn't react. I didn't feel anger or sadness. Instead, I contacted a lawyer and began preparing for a divorce. Brad Dawson and I had been together for 8 years, since our university days. Although we had only just had a wedding ceremony, we had legally sealed our marriage shortly after graduation in a quiet, impulsive moment. No ceremony, no gifts, no jewelry, just the reckless passion of youth. But now, that passion was long gone, and all that was left was a mess to clean up. Nearly 2 weeks later, I sat at home, reviewing the divorce draft prepared by my lawyer. The house was quiet, but the sound of a key turning in the lock broke the silence. I looked up, and there they were, Brad, walking in hand with Candy. Our eyes met, and I saw a flicker of awkwardness cross his face. He quickly let go of her hand, his voice strained as he tried to explain. "Candy's never been to the beach before, so I took her. Besides, you're pregnant. Didn't the doctor say you should be careful?" Before he could say more, I looked away, my eyes returning to the legal documents in front of me. I nodded, uninterested. "Okay," I said, dismissive. "Go ahead, whatever." Whatever else he was about to say caught in his throat. Seeing me sit there calmly, focused on the computer screen, completely unbothered, seemed to anger him even more. His voice grew cold, and he lashed out. "Do you have to be like this? I already told you, Candy's never been to the beach. That's why I took her. It's not a big deal. And why are you making a scene? It's not like we can't go on the honeymoon anytime. What's your problem?" He kept rambling, the frustration clear in his voice. "And how many times do I have to tell you, there is nothing between me and Candy?" I cut him off mid-sentence, tired of the same old lie. "You and her are just like brother and sister." "Yes, I know." I looked at him, my expression calm and indifferent. There wasn't any trace of anger. Brad's face, however, grew colder, his brows furrowed in frustration. His voice, laced with helplessness, cut through the room. "Then what are you upset about this time?" "I am busy," I replied, my attention already back on the draft in front of me, completely uninterested in meeting his gaze. Seeing the tension, Candy quickly stepped forward, gripping Brad's wrist with a performative air of concern. She added fuel to the fire with her sweet, saccharine tone. Please, Rossi, don't be mad. You mustn't argue with Brad because of me. Brad may not have taken you with him this time, but he bought you a special gift from the beach. She turned to him, her voice dripping with faux innocence. Brad, hurry and show her the present. Brad, eager to please, fished out a small box from his pocket. He opened it and pushed it toward me as if he were presenting a grand gesture. I bought it just for you. Go on. Take a look at it. His face gleamed with smug satisfaction as if he expected me to be overwhelmed with gratitude. I glanced at the box. Inside was a simple pair of floral-shaped earrings, the edges lined with tiny diamonds, and the petals crafted from blue gemstones. They were dainty, delicate. I took one look, then pushed the box back toward him without a second thought. No need. I am not interested in collecting trinkets. The room fell into an awkward silence. The atmosphere thickened with tension as Brad's face darkened. What do you mean by that, Rossi Jennings? I glanced at the X, a diamond bracelet wrapped around Candy's wrist, the kind of piece that screamed seven-figure luxury. My eyes drifted back to Brad's face, steady and unbothered, before I spoke. What I said is what I meant. You give her the bracelet. And me? What? A trinket? Do you think I'm only worth some throwaway gift? Brad, caught off guard, blinked in awkward silence, clearly not expecting me to call him out so directly. But Candy jumped in before he could recover, her voice dripping with that practiced sweetness. Rossi, don't be upset. Brad only gave me the bracelet because I liked it so much, but if it bothers you, I'll return it. Please don't let this come between you two, it's not worth it. Her words oozed with innocence, but her hands never moved to take off the bracelet, and instead, she blinked up at him with teary eyes, each drop perfectly timed, slipping down her cheeks like rain on cue. And of course, Brad folded. He pulled her into his arms like she was the one who needed comforting as he glared at me. Don't listen to her, Candy. That bracelet is yours. Once a gift is given, it stays with the person it's meant for. She's always been petty like this, getting worked up over nothing. I didn't bother responding. My attention had already returned to the glowing screen in front of me, but my silence only fueled his frustration. His face hardened as he wrapped his arm tighter around Candy and stormed out of the house. He made a show of slamming the door open wide, standing there waiting for me to give in like I always had, but not this time. I didn't even look up. Instead, I quietly added the cost of that bracelet, those millions he'd spent on her, into the asset division. With a final angry slam, he shut the door behind him. It wasn't long after they left that my parents called, asking me to come over for dinner. When I arrived at their place, who do I run into at the door but Brad? He looked at me, something like guilt flickering across his face before he smoothed it over with a forced calm. Are we going in together? He asked, trying to sound casual. I nodded and walked inside without a word. My parents hadn't forgiven him for what had happened at the wedding. Their coldness was obvious in every curt exchange, every sidelong glance. In the past, I might have stepped in to smooth things over, playing the mediator between my parents and Brad, but not now. This time, I let him sit there alone, awkward as the tension thickened around us. When dinner finally ended and I was ready to call a cab, Brad pulled up in his car. I opened the door to get in, only to see a sticker plastered across the front passenger seat. Reserved for Candy. He cleared his throat, obviously uncomfortable, and tried to explain. Candy insisted on putting it there. You don't sit here much anyway. I nodded, my voice calm and flat. Right, she's young. That's what girls her age do. He frowned as if he wanted to say more, but my phone buzzed before he could. I ignored him, focusing on the messages that needed my attention. By the time I was done, we had already arrived at the villa. I stepped out of the car, and before I could take another breath, Candy was already rushing toward him, practically throwing herself into his arms. Brad, I missed you so much, she chirped. Maybe it was because I was standing right there, but Brad looked uncomfortable again. He quickly pushed her away before she could plant a kiss on his cheek. Come on, Candy. "Stop acting so childish, you are too old for this," he said. She shot me a smug look, her voice laced with playful sweetness. "So what if I am? We're still super close." I decided to ignore their little exchange and walked straight into the house, but as soon as I reached the entrance, something caught my eye. A series of photos flashing across the electronic display on the wall. They were all of Candy and Brad. Some showed them cuddling while watching the sunrise. Others were of them dining together, and the last one, the most striking, showed them locked in a passionate kiss. I barely had time to process the images when Brad rushed over to my side, his voice panicked and desperate. "Rossi, these photos are fake. You have to believe me. Please don't be upset. It's not good for the baby." I turned to face him, catching the flicker of guilt in his eyes. I nodded, trying to mask the storm brewing inside me. "They look well taken, though." His confusion deepened, his brow furrowing. "Rossi, aren't you angry?" I kept my expression steady, calm. "No, not at all." Before he could press further, my phone rang. It was the doctor calling to discuss the details of my hospital stay tomorrow. Without giving Brad's reaction another thought, I walked away to take the call. By the time I returned to the event, the scene in front of me was disturbingly familiar. Brad stood there, shielding Candy, his voice raised as he berated someone in a heated exchange. I could easily piece together what had happened. Someone had spilled a bit of wine on the hem of Candy's dress, and now Brad was demanding an apology. The scene triggered a memory from years ago. We had been at another banquet, much like this one. I was standing near the champagne tower when Candy shoved me, seemingly by accident. I lost my balance, crashing into the tower and shattering the glasses as I fell. Champagne mixed with blood as it dripped down my body. I had looked to Brad for help, but instead, he unleashed his fury on me in front of everyone. "Can't you walk properly? Didn't you see the giant champagne tower right in front of you? Do you have any idea how important this event is? What's the point of someone as useless as you even being alive?" His final words cut deep, like a knife. "If I were you, I'd throw myself headfirst into the nearest wall." Snapping back to the present, I watched him now. The same man, protecting Candy over a minor accident. It was laughable, really. Without another word, I turned on my heel and walked away. Brad didn't come home that night. I wasn't surprised it wasn't the first time. But as I was finishing up in the bathroom the next morning, I saw him walking in with breakfast in hand. And trailing right behind him was Candy. When he saw me, he placed the breakfast on the dining table and, for once, offered an explanation. Candy was scared to be alone, so I sent her home. It was already the middle of the night, so I just stayed over. Candy, clinging to his arm, chimed in, her tone laced with mock innocence. "That's right, Rossi. You are not mad, are you?" I nodded without speaking. Brad seemed to pick up on my coldness, and with a rare gentleness in his voice, he placed the breakfast down and tried again. "Didn't you say you've been wanting to see that new movie? I have time today, I can take you." That movie, praised by everyone since its release, had been something I asked him about again and again. Each time he turned me down, claiming he was too busy with work. Yet just a few days later, I saw him in Candy's Instagram post. "The best movie with the best person," was the caption. Though their faces weren't visible, the picture of their hands intertwined said more than enough. Even if I hadn't seen his face, I would have known it was him. The faint trace of perfume on him now, not mine, made my decision easy. "No need," I said, my voice calm. "I've got something to do today." A flicker of discomfort crossed his face, like he hadn't expected the rejection. He opened his mouth to say something else, but Candy had already made herself comfortable on the couch, looking at me with wide-eyed innocence. "Rossi, when you say you are busy, does that mean you are meeting your university friend?" I shot her a sharp look, suspicion creeping in. The only person who knew I wanted to initiate a divorce was my lawyer, and that lawyer was an old university friend. No one else knew about the matter. Seeing my suspicious look, Candy quickly turned to Brad with a look of false innocence. Brad, don't be angry when you hear what I am about to tell you. A few days ago, my friend told me they saw Rossi with her university friend at a cafe, acting. She paused deliberately, feigning hesitation before continuing in a softer, fearful tone. Intimately. But maybe my friend was mistaken. After all, how could Rossi ever cheat on you? She loves you so much. The moment those words left her mouth, Brad's face twisted in fury. Without warning, he slammed his hand down, sending the breakfast on the table crashing to the floor, shattering into 1,000 pieces. His eyes burned with rage as they locked onto me. Rossi, so you are not coming to the movies with me because you are sneaking around with another man? He spat. Do you think you are being fair to the child you are carrying? I glanced at the shards scattered across the floor but said nothing. Before I could speak, Candy, pretending to be the peacemaker, jumped in again. Brad, please don't get mad. Let's talk calmly. It's not all her fault, after all. Her mother also. But before she could finish that vile sentence, I grabbed the napkin from the table and threw it at her, my hand trembling with rage. She could slander me all she wanted, but she had no right to insult my mother. The napkin left a red mark on her face, and she immediately looked up at Brad with tear-filled, wounded eyes. As expected, he rushed over to her, lifting her arm in concern. Seeing her pitiful expression, he glared at me, pointing his finger with unrestrained fury. Rossi, you've disappointed me beyond words. Even if what Candy said was untrue, you had no right to lay a hand on her. His accusations came rapid fire. You should know better. The lie cut him off sharply, my voice cold. So you know she's lying. His face froze, caught in his own words, but it quickly shifted back to self-righteous indignation as he pointed at me again. Yes, I saw it too that day. But even so, you are still wrong to hit her. Apologize to Candy now, or we're getting divorced. A chill ran through my body, spreading like ice. I stared at him in disbelief, still holding on to a shred of hope, a final attempt to salvage what little remained between us. Brad, I said, my voice low but steady. I've scheduled an abortion. Will you go with me tomorrow? He scoffed, the sound dripping with mockery as if I had just told a ridiculous joke. Rossi, I've told you this before, Brad snapped, his tone sharp. You can't use your pregnancy as an excuse for your tantrums. Apologize to Candy right now or we go get divorced this instant. His words made me laugh in disbelief and anger. I reached into my bag, pulled out the divorce papers I had prepared long ago, and threw them onto the table in front of him. Fine. Sign. Let's go get divorced now. Brad's expression darkened the moment he saw the papers. He glared at me, his mood shifting from arrogance to something colder. And you, Rossi, you were still carrying our child, he sneered. You were just being sensitive because of the pregnancy. I can forgive you for acting impulsively. I met his gaze, unflinching, and after a long pause, I spoke one truth. Brad, no one knows better than you whether I'm being impulsive or not. His face froze. Candy, standing nearby, opened her mouth to speak but was cut off by Brad before she could say a word. Candy, we need to talk in private. Please go home for now, okay? She hesitated, her eyes widening as they darted to the divorce agreement and its detailed property division. Her expression twisted in anger, and she looked like she was about to start shouting at me, but Brad quickly ushered her out the door before she could cause a scene. The moment she left, his demeanor changed. His voice softened with a hint of pleading. Rossi, I know you were upset about how close Candy and I are, but trust me, I only see her as a sister. You will always be my wife, the one who holds the title of Madame in the Dawson family. Think about what would become of our child if we divorce now. Are you going to let them grow up in a broken home? I stayed silent, watching him intently. If you don't love me, I said, my voice steady and clear, we can divorce. Give Candy the title she has been fighting for, and maybe everyone will be happy about that. His face contorted with frustration,
and he angrily tossed the divorce papers aside. Amber, how could I not love? Before he could finish, his phone rang, and without needing to look, I knew it was Candy. That ringtone, a tune that had become an all-too-familiar reminder of her presence, echoed in the room. Under my unwavering gaze, Brad hesitated for just a moment before answering the call. Whatever was said on the other end made him instantly stand up. "Candy's in trouble. I need to go check on her," he said, his voice full of urgency. I didn't respond, keeping my face unreadable. I stared at him, my emotions locked behind an impassive facade. Before leaving, he leaned down as if to kiss me goodbye, but I instinctively pulled away. He froze, standing awkwardly, unsure of what to do next. "Rossi, I promise, after this, I will keep my distance from Candy," he insisted, his voice pleading. I picked up the divorce agreement from the floor, my voice cold and steady. "Meet me tomorrow morning at 9:00 a.m. at the Obstetrics and Gynecology Department of the Women's and Children's Hospital." Brad nodded eagerly, a flurry of promises escaping his lips as he rushed out the door, clearly eager to tend to the person waiting outside. I didn't say another word. I simply deleted and blocked all his contact information, shutting him out completely. The next morning, 9:00 a.m. came and went, but Brad never showed up. It didn't matter to me. My parents accompanied me to the hospital, offering their quiet support as I walked into the surgery room. The operating room was cold, and I could feel the chill seep into my bones. But nothing could compare to the coldness I felt when the forceps entered my body. As the anesthesia took hold, I slowly drifted into unconsciousness. When I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. My parents were there, and the moment my mother saw me stir, her eyes filled with tears. She grabbed my hand, her voice heavy with concern. "Rossi, does it hurt?" I smiled weakly, shaking my head. "No, Mom. They gave me anesthesia so it doesn't hurt." She looked as though she wanted to say more but hesitated. My father, who had been silent until now, sat stoically beside us. After a long silence, he finally spoke, his voice firm. "Mom, broke a..." But my mother continued to fret over me, worried about any potential complications from the procedure. Every day, she brought homemade meals, making sure I was recovering under her watchful eye. With her care, my strength gradually returned. By the second day, I was able to get out of bed and walk on my own. Following the doctor's advice, I took slow, steady steps around the hospital corridor, rebuilding my strength. My parents stayed close, still anxious but trying to give me space. When it was mealtime, my mother went to prepare food, and my father went to fetch water, leaving me alone for a brief moment. As I walked down the hall, I unexpectedly bumped into Brad, who was helping Candy walk. They froze when they saw me. There was an uncomfortable silence before Brad spoke, his voice uncertain. "Rossi, Candy had a progesterone rupture. I was really worried about her, so I brought her to the hospital," he explained. Then he added, "And I didn't know you were here. How are your test results?" I didn't want to engage with them and turned to leave, but before I could get far, Brad grabbed my wrist. He gripped my wrist angrily. "I'm the child's father. I'm your husband. I have the right to know the results of my own child's checkup." I tried to pull my hand back, but Brad held on tightly. Fed up, I slapped him across the face and sneered, "And you think you are fit to be a father?" Furious, he tightened his grip on my wrist, his voice brimming with anger. "I'm an old man, let me tell you, Rossi. Even if we get divorced, I will fight for custody of our child. You won't even get a chance to see them again." Before he could finish his threat, my father returned, holding the water he had gone to fetch. Upon seeing the scene, he didn't hesitate. He threw a punch that landed squarely on Brad's face. "And let me tell you something, Rossi. The child is gone, slut. And if you want custody, go dig through a trash can." Brad looked at me in disbelief, his hand trembling as he pointed at me, trying to say something before could speak. Candy suddenly collapsed, weakly calling out for him. "Hand, Brad." But this time, Brad didn't rush to her. His eyes remained fixed on me with rage and disbelief. Not wanting to escalate things further, my father quickly helped me back to the hospital room, worried something else might happen later. As my mother laid out the meal she had prepared, a knock came at the door. The next second, Brad stepped inside and said, "Dad, I came to see Rossi." My father's expression darkened immediately. His voice was icy. "Mr. Dawson, you must be joking. My wife and I don't dare accept being called your father, Dad, and Mom." Guilt filled Brad's face, and behind him, his parents followed. Brad's mother offered me an awkward smile, while his father, without a word, kicked Brad hard. Then Brad's father quickly turned to me with a placating tone. "Mom, Rossi, we've heard everything. It was all Brad's fault," he said. "He knows he was wrong. We are truly sorry you've been treated so poorly." My mother glared at him, about to speak, but I caught her wrist, stopping her. I gave her a look and spoke calmly. "Frenching, Mr. and Mrs. Dawson. You both know how Brad has treated me throughout our marriage all these years, but I don't want to dwell on the past. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., let's meet at courthouse to finalize the divorce." Brad's face turned pale. He walked to the side of the hospital bed and dropped to one knee, kneeling at my bedside. "Blue Rossi, I know I was wrong," he pleaded. "But please don't to divorce me. I truly can't live without you." Tears started to roll down from the corners of his eyes. I scoffed, looking at him with a mocking smile. "Monstered Brad, when you called me petty on our wedding day, you didn't feel any love for me. When you went on a honeymoon with Candy, you didn't feel any love for me. Now that we divorce, you suddenly feel like you love me again?" I sneered. But Che-Love is really cheap Brad's father. Enraged by my words, threw another punch at Brad, while his mother followed with a slap. Her slap wasn't as harsh as her heart was still clearly aching for her son. She tried to reach out and grab my hand, but when I dodged her touch, she didn't take offense. Instead, she spoke with a guilty expression. "Mom, Rossi, I know this whole thing is Brad's fault, but truly, he only ever saw Candy as a little sister." Bucks, do you know what they say? Hondo's fate? That brings two lovers together. It hasn't been an easy and Brad to get here so far in life together. And for you, what do you think of this? Just forgive Brad this one time. I promise, if he ever does this again, all the property does the house, car, and every share in the company, ons will go to you. Brad will walk away with nothing. Would that be enough for you? Brad's mother had always been the one with the final say in their family, and even now her words held weight. Brad knelt beside her, his eyes red as he looked at me. "Unstupid, I promise from now on, I will cut all ties with Candy. I swear I never contact her again, just give me one more chance." My parents wanted to object, but I gently pressed their wrists to keep them silent. I pulled a document from my bag, which a different divorce agreement than the one I had shown before. This one stated that Brad would leave with nothing. "That's fine, as long as Brad signs this divorce agreement," I said. Brad's mother frowned. Just as she was about to reach for the agreement, Brad snatched it up himself. Without hesitation, he pulled a pen from his pocket and signed his name. "Will you forgive me now?" Hot, his almost desperate expression. I smiled and took the signed agreement from his hands. "Mundidi," I said, I forgive you." After they left, my mother looked at me with disapproval. "Mom, Rossi, are you really going to stay with Brad?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. Are you afraid that after the divorce you won't have anywhere to go? Don't worry, even if you divorce him, your father and I will still take care of you." I was touched by her words, my eyes welling up with tears. But I shook my head and gently reassured her. "Mom, don't worry. I am not going to stay with Brad. I have my reasons for doing this." She seemed ready to argue further, but when she saw the determination in my eyes, she simply sighed and shook her head in resignation. In the days that followed, Brad kept his word. He cut all ties with Candy, and blocking every contact in front of me began to dote on me every day, constantly checking in to make sure I was okay, as if terrified that something might go wrong. During this time, Candy tried to see him several times, but each time he rejected her. Still, I knew he wouldn't be able to hold out for long. Soon, the day of my follow-up checkup arrived. The night before, I casually mentioned it, pretending not to notice the guilty look in his eyes. Nikun, I have a checkup tomorrow. You will come with me, won't you? He quickly nodded, promising, Mr. Rossi, of course, don't worry. I will definitely go with you tomorrow. Satisfied, I smiled and nodded in return. Then, while he went out to buy something, I sent a message to Candy. Mayon, it seems you were not that important to Brad after all. He told me he will definitely go with me to the hospital tomorrow and said being with you was just a passing fling. Candy took the bait. After a back and forth, she finally responded, though her tone was defensive, just saying, I told you I knew. She wouldn't let me down. My gamble paid off. On the day of my follow-up appointment, Brad didn't show up. Instead, photos of him passionately kissing Candy outside her apartment made the headlines. We had climbed the financial ranks from nothing together. His family had some resources, but most of our success came after we got married. We built our business brick by brick in the toughest times. We even marketed our love story to boost product sales, using our relationship as a shield for the brand. Now, the moment those photos hit the internet, a storm of outrage followed. People flooded the comments, calling him heartless and opportunistic. They accused him of betraying the very foundation of our success now that he had made it big. But I didn't let it get to me. Instead, I sent him a message with the divorce appointment I had already scheduled at the courthouse. Meet me at the courthouse tomorrow at 9:00 a.m. He didn't respond. But when I got home, I found him sitting in the darkened living room. The room was cold, and he was crouched in a corner of the coffee table, surrounded by bottles of red and white wine. When he saw me, his eyes were red, and he looked up at me with desperation. Mom Rossi, you knew this day was coming, didn't you? He asked. I smiled at him, but there was no warmth in my gaze. You were the one who signed the divorce agreement, and you were the one who went to see Candy behind my back. How is any of this my fault? The plea in his eyes was almost unbearable. His entire demeanor was pitiful as he looked at me, humbled and broken. Rossi, I know I was wrong. We've been together for so long. You know me. I've never done anything to truly betray you. I know you love me, and I also know that no matter how far you went with Candy, you never crossed that final line. I spoke calmly, as if we were discussing someone else. Most of all, I know Candy was just a fleeting distraction for you. I know you've always loved me with every word I spoke. Hope returned to his eyes as I finished speaking. He was looking at me with renewed belief. Rossi, since you understand, does that mean we— But before he could finish, I shattered his hopes without mercy must number it Nikes over Brad. You already signed the divorce agreement, and it clearly states you will leave with nothing if you come with me tomorrow to finalize the divorce. We can reconsider the division of assets and maybe leave you with the company, but if you don't show up, I will take the divorce agreement to court, and you won't get a single cent. Brad stared at man disbelief as if he couldn't accept that these words had come from my mouth. Turl, are you really going to go through with this? His voice trembled with a mixture of disbelief and desperation. I glanced at the empty bottles on the able table, my gaze cold and unyielding. Must you know me once I make a decision and never go back on it? A bitter smile spread across his face as he leaned back and collapsed onto the floor. Defeated. And dear Rossi, you don't understand. His voice wavered as he stared up at the ceiling, tears of regret rolling down his face. Merch, when I was young, my parents were strict. They wouldn't let me have friends. Only Candy was willing to be my friend, so Riasa— He kept talking, pouring out the reasons for his attachment to Candy, the regrets and justifications, but I didn't care to listen. His excuses meant nothing to me. I turned away and headed to the bedroom, shutting out his voice as I prepared for bed. By the time morning came, even though I knew he didn't want to, Brad was left with no choice. For the sake of his family, he had to go according to my plans. The moment I held the divorce certificate in my hand, a wave of relief washed over me. I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Without sparing a glance at Brad's ashen face, I strode out of the courthouse, my steps brisk and full of purpose. Just as I neared the exit, I felt a tug on my wrist. Turning around, I saw him, heavily shovel his eyes rimmed with red, looking at me with a pitiful expression of desperation. "Rossi, give me one more chance, please," he pleaded, his voice trembling with Mel. "I can make things right, I swear, just trust me." I took his hand off with a smirk, my voice cold and sharp. Divorce, now there are no more chances." He opened his mouth as if to say something else, but had no interest in hearing him out. True to my word, I left the company in his hands, then packed my bags and headed for Yento P, the place I had once dreamed of us spending our honeymoon. I had imagined countless times what it would be like to come to this city with him driving through the streets together, but now that I was here alone, I realized I didn't need anyone to enjoy it. I explored new places, embraced different cultures, and indulged in local delicacies. The journey turned out to be everything I had hoped for, and more. 2 months later, I returned. By then, Brad's company had crumbled under the weight of scandal and mismanagement, and he had declared bankruptcy, just as I had planned. I swooped in to buy the company back at a fraction of its original value. This way, I let someone else bear the brunt of the public backlash, and I reclaimed the company at a bargain price. When I next saw Brad, it was in the CEO's office, his old office, the one that once held his name. This time, though, I entered not as an employee, but as the new owner. "Shh, long time no see," I greeted him with a casual smile. The man standing in front of me was a mere shadow of his former self, humbled, visibly worn down by the chaos of the past 2 months. "Rossi?" he began. I cut him off, my tone firm and commanding. "You should address me as the CEO now," I corrected him. I noticed a flicker of regret and sorrow in his eyes, but it quickly disappeared as he suppressed it. Brad moved out of the company within 3 days. With swift actions and decisive management, I revived the company's operations. However, to fully restore the brand's reputation, I had no choice but to release the provocative videos that Candy had sent me in the past. As soon as those videos went public, the internet erupted in outrage. Candy was bombarded with insults. Her old posts flooded with comments calling her shameless for knowingly being the other woman. Brad, the mastermind behind it all, didn't escape the storm either. His phone number was leaked, and his private information was plastered all over the web. Forced to disconnect, he shut off his phone and retreated from the internet entirely. Over time, the relentless pressure took a toll on his mental health. What started as a fear of leaving his home spiraled into crippling anxiety, leaving him unable to face anyone. His parents tried to suppress the media frenzy, but it was impossible to contain. The internet users, relentless in their pursuit, uncovered more secrets, pouring even more outrage into official channels. In the end, both of his parents were fired from their positions, just as they neared retirement. Meanwhile, my company soared to new heights. The scandal, ironically, had bolstered our image, and our profits skyrocketed, surpassing previous records by leaps and bounds. My net worth multiplied several times over. As for Brad, I hadn't seen him since our divorce. I only heard rumors about his deteriorating mental state. He either stayed locked inside his home or wandered the streets aimlessly, ignoring the countless attempts by his parents to intervene, choosing instead to lose himself in the digital world. Her family had always relied on Brad's support, so with his downfall, her fortunes crumbled. During the divorce proceedings, I filed a claim to recover all the money spent on her during our marriage. Though Brad hadn't bought her anything of great value beyond a diamond bracelet, it was enough to leave her financially ruined. At the company's annual party, the venue was ironically chosen at the very place where I had once held my wedding. This time I wasn't left behind by anyone. Instead, I was escorted to the stage like a queen, surrounded by admiration and respect. What I didn't expect was to see Brad again. After my speech, it was the dead of winter, with snowflakes gently drifting through the air. He stood outside, shivering in tattered clothes, a far cry from the confident man he once was. A few employees recognized him and whispered among themselves, pointing at his pitiful figure. I watched from the stage as he rushed toward me, excitement in his step. But just as he was about to reach me, The security guards intervened, stopping him in his tracks. Desperate and unhinged, he stretched out his hand toward me, pleading in a frantic voice. "Rossi, I truly know I was wrong. Please give me one chance." I didn't move toward him. Instead, out of consideration for our past, I had someone call his parents and ask them to come take him away. As the event wrapped up, I decided not to have the driver take me home. I preferred the solitude of driving myself, slowly making my way down the mountain road. What does it take to truly walk away from someone who's hurt you deeply, even when they beg for forgiveness? When do you know it's time to finally close the door on a chapter? Rossi's marriage to Brad has been nothing but turmoil, culminating in his betrayal with his former lover, Candy, on their wedding day. Despite Brad's apologies and attempts to salvage their marriage, Rossi sees through his manipulations and decides to go through with the divorce. After a calculated period of healing and reclaiming her independence, Rossi comes back stronger than ever, purchasing the company Brad once controlled. The tables turn, and now it's Brad who faces the consequences of his actions, as his mental state deteriorates amidst the scandal. Rossi, however, rises to power, with her success reflecting the strength and resolve she found in herself through all the pain. From the perspective of personal growth and empowerment, Rossi's journey is a testament to the strength that comes from facing betrayal and pain head-on. Brad's treatment of her over the years, a mixture of neglect, manipulation, and infidelity, could have broken anyone. But Rossi chooses to remain unbroken. By not retaliating in the heat of the moment and instead calmly planning her next steps, she reclaims her power. Her decision to divorce Brad, not out of spite, but out of a recognition of her own worth, is a crucial turning point. In the end, Rossi's rise to success isn't just about financial gain, but about reclaiming control over her life and refusing to let someone else's actions define her. She doesn't wait for Brad's remorse. She walks away and creates a future where she's in charge. Her story shows that sometimes the hardest choice is the one where you stop fighting for something that will never work, and instead fight for your peace, your happiness, and your future. Have you ever faced a situation where staying in a relationship would have been easier than leaving, but you knew deep down it was the right decision to walk away? How did you find the strength to do it? Rossi's journey is one of incredible strength and resolve. Do you think she made the right choice in walking away from Brad, or should she have given him another chance? What would you have done in her shoes? Share your thoughts and personal experiences in the comments below. Let's talk about the difficult decisions we make when it comes to letting go and moving on.
The smell of caramelized onions and seared meat filled the kitchen as I put the finishing touches on my signature dish. 25 candles waited on the counter, still in their box, while my parents' voices drifted in from the dining room, cooing over Sophie's latest achievement. Always Sophie. "Riley, is dinner almost ready?" Mom called out. "Sophie has that interview tomorrow morning, remember?" I gritted my teeth, carefully plating the braised short ribs. 5 more minutes. The sauce needed to be perfect. A reduction of red wine, beef stock, and fresh herbs I'd been perfecting for months at the restaurant. Mason appeared at my side, sliding a pristine white plate onto the counter. "Need help carrying these out?" "I've got it." The words came out sharper than intended. "Sorry, just, you know how they get. That's why I'm here, moral support and all that." He squeezed my shoulder, but quickly stepped back as Sophie breezed into the kitchen. "Something smells burnt," she announced, wrinkling her nose. Her perfectly manicured fingers traced along the counter's edge. "Did you remember Dad's acid reflux? He can't handle spicy food anymore." "It's not spicy, Sophie. I know how to cook for my own family." She smiled, that sugary smile that never reached her eyes. "Just looking out for everyone, like always." I carried the plates out one by one, arranging them carefully around the table. Dad barely looked up from his phone, while Mom fussed with Sophie's hair, asking about interview outfits. The candles remained unlit in their box. "Before we eat," I said, standing beside my chair, "I wanted to thank everyone for coming tonight. This recipe is something I've been working on. Oh, honey, let's just eat while it's hot, Mom interrupted. Sophie needs her rest for tomorrow. I sank into my chair, watching as they took their first bites. The meat should have been fork tender, falling apart with minimal effort. Instead, Sophie made a show of sawing at hers with her knife. It's chewy, she said, setting down her fork, and really salty. Did you taste this before serving? Dad pushed his plate away. It is rather tough. Maybe stick to simpler dishes next time, Riley. That's impossible, I muttered, cutting into my own portion. The meat yielded easily, perfectly cooked. I tested this recipe dozens of times. Sophie took a long sip of water. Well, clearly something went wrong tonight. It happens to everyone, right? Not all of us can be professional chefs. Try it, I said to Mason, who had been quietly eating beside me. Tell them. He cleared his throat. It's actually perfectly... Oh! Sophie suddenly grabbed her throat, face contorting. Something's wrong. It burns. Mom jumped up, rushing to Sophie's side as she continued to gasp and cough. What did you put in this, Riley? Nothing. I swear it's just... Call an ambulance, Dad shouted, already dialing his phone. I stood frozen, watching the chaos unfold. Sophie's performance was Oscar-worthy. The trembling hands, the tears streaming down her face. But when our eyes met across the table, I caught the flash of triumph in her expression. Mason's hand found mine under the table. Riley, we should go. No. I yanked my hand away, fury rising like bile in my throat. I want to know what she did to my food. But nobody was listening. They never did. Mom and Dad huddled around Sophie, who had mysteriously recovered enough to scroll through her phone while they debated which emergency room to visit. I walked into the kitchen, past the box of unlit candles, and opened the trash can. There, beneath some paper towels, lay an empty bottle of hot sauce, Sophie's favorite brand, the kind that could make grown men cry. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about ruining my birthday dinner. This was about making sure I never forgot my place in this family. Well, if Sophie wanted to play games, I could play too, and I played to win. Happy birthday to me, I whispered, letting the trash can lid slam shut. The executive chef position at Maison Rouge felt like a lifeline thrown into choppy waters. I stared at the offer letter, my hands trembling slightly as I read it for the 10th time. You earned this, Mason said, leaning against the prep station. Nina recommended you personally. The kitchen bustled around us, line cooks preparing for dinner service. My last shift as sous chef. Sophie's already texting me about it. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Mom and Dad are worried about you taking on too much responsibility. Maybe you should think this through. Delete it, Mason said, but I was already typing back. The kitchen door swung open and Nina strode in, her chef's whites pristine as always. Riley, a word? In her office, she didn't sit down. The board approved your promotion unanimously, but there's something else. She paused, studying my face. Your sister called the restaurant today. My stomach clenched. What did she want? She expressed concerns about your stability, mentioned some incident at a family dinner. Of course she had. I forced my voice to stay steady. She sabotaged my food and faked an allergic reaction. I figured it was something like that. Nina's expression softened. Look, I've dealt with family like Sophie before. They'll do anything to keep you small. The dinner service that night was flawless. Every dish perfect, every plate a small victory, until I saw Sophie seated at table 7, Kevin beside her, both dressed like they'd stepped out of a magazine. I'll handle their table, Mason offered, but I shook my head. No, this is my kitchen now. I approached their table, chin high. Welcome to Maison Rouge. Sophie's smile was razor sharp. We had to come congratulate you. though Kevin's father says executive chef positions usually require more experience. Kevin shifted uncomfortably. Sophie, maybe we should. I'm just concerned, she continued, voice dripping honey. After what happened at your birthday, well, pressure can make people crack. I felt the eyes of nearby diners. Would you like to hear tonight's specials? Actually, Sophie leaned forward. I was hoping to speak with your supervisor. There are some health concerns I'd like to discuss. My vision blurred at the edges. I am the supervisor. Oh, well, surely there's someone above you? Later, in the walk-in cooler, I pressed my forehead against a shelf of prepped vegetables, letting the cold seep into my skin. Mason found me there. The health inspector's coming tomorrow, he said quietly. Anonymous complaint about food safety protocols. I laughed, a harsh sound in the confined space. She works fast. Nina's not worried. Our records are perfect. It's not about the inspection. I straightened up, frost crackling under my fingers. It's about making me look incompetent, unstable. She's trying to poison everything I touch. Mason stepped closer. Then don't let her. You don't understand. She's been doing this for years. Every achievement, every moment of pride. She finds a way to taint it. So fight back. I turned to face him. What? You're executive chef now. You have power, influence. Use it. The idea settled in my chest like a hot coal. That would make me just like her. No, Mason's voice was firm. It would make you someone who finally stands up for themselves. My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. Sophie's worried about you, sweetie. Maybe we should discuss some other career options. I deleted the message without responding. Through the cooler's window, I could see Sophie still at her table, holding court with a group of regular customers who'd wandered over, probably sharing her concerns about the new executive chef's mental state. You know what the difference is between Sophie and me? I said, watching her perform. She destroys things because she can, because it makes her feel powerful. And you? I pushed open the cooler door, the warm kitchen air rushing in. I create things, beautiful things, and if she wants to turn this into a war, fine, but we're playing by my rules now. Riley, send them the tasting menu. I called to the line. On the house, let's show my dear sister exactly what her unstable big sister can do. Because Sophie had forgotten something crucial. In this kitchen, I was the one with the power to make or break someone's night. And I'd learned from the best about how to use that power. The bank statement sat on my desk like a loaded gun. Dad's signature on a second mortgage, dated 3 months ago. The same week Sophie had mysteriously acquired her new car. Tina knocked on my office door, her face tight with concern. Chef, there's someone from the health department here again. 3rd time this week. I folded the paper carefully, tucking it into my jacket. Let me guess, anonymous complaint? They're focusing on the prep stations this time. She hesitated. And your sister's review just went live on the city's biggest food blog. Of course it had. I pulled it up on my phone, scanning the carefully crafted destruction. While Maison Rouge once stood as a culinary landmark, recent changes in leadership have led to concerning lapses in quality and safety. The kitchen door burst open, Nina striding in with thunder in her eyes. Board meeting, now! In the conference room, faces turned toward me with varying degrees of concern and judgment. Mr. Harrison, Kevin's father and majority stakeholder, spoke first. These allegations are troubling, Miss Turner. They're fabricated, I said, but my voice sounded hollow even to me. My sister has provided documented evidence of multiple health code violations. He slid photographs across the table, close-ups of my prep stations, somehow taken during service hours, and financial records suggesting mismanagement of resources. My throat closed up. The second mortgage. She'd found it too. I can explain? Perhaps, Nina cut in. We should discuss this privately. But Mr. Harrison wasn't finished. Your father called me personally this morning. He's quite concerned about your mental state. The room tilted slightly. Dad had never called anyone about me before, had never shown enough interest to interfere. I've increased our profits by 30%, I said, pulling out spreadsheets with trembling hands. Guest satisfaction is at an all-time high. Except for these reviews, another board member noted, all from highly respected food critics. All Sophie's friends, more likely. I'd seen them at her table that night, laughing, taking notes. Mason appeared in the doorway, face pale. Chef, there's a situation in the kitchen. I found Sophie standing at my pass, wearing pristine white designer clothes, examining a plate with theatrical concern. A health inspector hovered nearby, scribbling notes. What are you doing here? She turned, eyes wide with manufactured innocence. Daddy asked me to check on you. He's worried sick about the restaurant's finances. Her voice carried across the kitchen. All those missing inventory reports? The missing reports I'd found buried in Kevin's desk last week after he'd volunteered to help organize the office. Get out. Riley. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. We're just trying to help. You're clearly overwhelmed. Maybe if you'd listened when we suggested a different career path. I grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the door. She stumbled, catching herself against a prep station. Containers crashed to the floor, sending marinades and sauces spreading across pristine tiles. Assault! Sophie shrieked, holding her arm. She's completely lost control. The health inspector's pen moved faster. Mason tried to intervene, but Sophie was already pulling out her phone, dialing with shaking fingers. Daddy, she's having another episode. Yes, worse than my birthday. I don't feel safe. Later, after the inspector left with pages of violations, after Sophie's tearful exit and the board's emergency session, I sat alone in the dark kitchen. Nina found me there, methodically sharpening knives. They're suspending you pending investigation, she said softly. I fought hard, but with the documented violations and the incident, it wasn't random. The knife edge caught light as I tested it. The mortgage, the missing reports, the perfectly timed inspections. She planned this for months. Riley, did you know my parents are broke? I looked up, meeting her worried gaze. But Sophie's tuition, her car, her apartment, it's all still paid for. They mortgaged their future for her, and she used that money to destroy mine. Nina pulled up a stool. What are you going to do? I set down the knife, its edge now razor sharp. Sophie thinks she's won because she knows how to manipulate people, but I know how to build things from nothing, and I know exactly how to burn it all down. That path leads nowhere good. No, I agreed, standing up, but neither does letting her win. The food truck's generator hummed beneath my feet as I prepped for lunch service. 3 weeks since losing my position at Maison Rouge, and already the cramped kitchen felt more like home than that pristine restaurant ever had. Mason wiped condensation from the window. Lines forming already. They're here for the food, I said, chopping herbs with practiced precision. Not the drama. But drama found me anyway. Sophie's sleek car pulled into the lot, parking directly in front of my truck. She emerged wearing oversized sunglasses, Kevin trailing behind her like a well-trained puppy. Health inspection, she called out, waving a badge. Anonymous tip about improper food storage. The knife stilled in my hand. That's not a real badge. No, she smiled. Kevin's father knows people on the council. They're very concerned about unlicensed vendors in this area. The growing lunch crowd watched our exchange with interest. Sophie played to them, raising her voice. We're just worried about public safety. After what happened at Maison Rouge, Your food truck permit, Kevin mumbled, not meeting my eyes. It might need additional review. Mason stepped between us. We have all the required documentation. Documentation can be challenged, Sophie said sweetly, especially with prior violations on record. I spotted Nina in the crowd, her expression grim. She'd warned me about this, how Sophie would keep pushing until I broke again. Order up, I called out instead of responding, sliding a container across the counter to my first customer. House special with extra herbs. Sophie's smile faltered. Did you hear what I said? Perfect timing, I continued, addressing the growing line. Today's special is revenge served cold, a dish I learned from an expert. I met Sophie's gaze, though some people prefer their sabotage hot and public. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Sophie's carefully crafted mask cracked slightly. You're unstable, she hissed. Everyone knows it. Really? I turned to Kevin. Tell them about the missing inventory reports you planted. Or should I call your father about the real reason Maison Rouge's numbers didn't add up? Kevin paled. Sophie grabbed his arm, but he shook her off. I can't, he started. Sophie, you said nobody would get hurt. Kevin, shut up. But he was already backing away. You promised it was just about teaching her a lesson. Not all this. The crowd watched, enthralled, as Sophie's perfect facade began to crack. She reached for Kevin, but he was already walking to his car. You're making a scene, she snapped at me. Again. No, I said quietly. I'm making lunch. You're the one putting on a show. Nina stepped forward then, phone in hand. I recorded everything, Riley, including Kevin's confession about the reports. Sophie's face contorted. You think this changes anything? Mom and Dad will never choose me over you? I finished plating another order. I know that's not what this is about anymore. Then what? It's about building something of my own, something you can't touch. I gestured to the line of waiting customers. These people aren't here because of our family drama. They're here because I create something worth having. We'll see about that, Sophie snarled, but her voice shook slightly. She turned on her heel, nearly running to her car. After she peeled out of the lot, Nina approached the window. You okay? I looked down at my hands, steady now as they arranged garnishes. I thought revenge would feel different, more satisfying. And it feels empty. I passed another order to a waiting customer. But this, creating something new, this feels real. Mason bumped my shoulder gently. Speaking of creating something new, we got 3 more catering requests this morning. I nodded, already planning the menus. Sophie might have taken Maison Rouge from me, but she'd given me something unexpected in return, the push I needed to break free. Chef, Tina called from outside. The food blog critics are here, the real ones this time. I straightened my apron, catching my reflection in the steel counter. The woman staring back wasn't the same one who'd let Sophie destroy her birthday dinner. She was stronger now, focused on building rather than breaking. Let's show them what we can do, I said, reaching for my knives. Because the best revenge wasn't destroying Sophie's world. It was creating my own, far beyond her reach. The local food magazine's cover story sat on my prep counter. My food truck's success splashed across glossy pages. 3 months of grinding work had paid off, until I saw the headline, Rising Star or Family Fraud, The Turner Sisters Restaurant Wars. I crumpled the magazine just as Mason rushed in. Riley, the truck! The acrid smell of burning rubber hit me before I reached the door. All 4 tires slashed, brake fluid pooling underneath. On the side panel, someone had scratched unstable in jagged letters. Security cameras caught everything, Mason said quietly. It was Kevin. Of course it was. Sophie's perfect puppet, trying to earn his way back into her good graces. Nina appeared with 2 police officers, but I barely heard their questions. My phone buzzed. Mom's number. "Did you see the article?" Her voice trembled. "Sophie's devastated. They quoted you saying terrible things about our family." "I never gave them an interview." "Then who did?" A pause. "Your father's law firm is losing clients. People are asking questions about Sophie's internship, about the family finances." I ended the call as Tina arrived with our day's supplies. "The restaurant supplier won't extend credit anymore. Someone called them about potential fraud." The pieces clicked together. Sophie wasn't just attacking my business, she was scorching the earth around it, making sure I couldn't rebuild. "We have that big catering event tomorrow," Mason reminded me. "The tech company launch? Cancel it." "Riley, we can't serve food from a vandalized truck, Mason. We can't." My voice cracked. The magazine's pages scattered across the ground, Sophie's smiling photo mocking me from every angle. Nina picked up a page. "She's playing a dangerous game." "No," I said, something cold settling in my chest. "She's playing my game now. The restaurant supplies, the magazine. She's using my own tactics against me." "What do you mean?" But I was already dialing Sophie's number. She answered on the first ring. "Enjoying the press coverage?" "You know what's interesting?" I kept my voice steady. How the magazine knew exactly which suppliers to contact, almost like someone had access to Maison Rouge's vendor list. A slight intake of breath. "I don't know what you're—" "Kevin still has the original inventory reports, doesn't he? The ones that would prove embezzlement?" Silence. "Let's meet. Just us. No more proxies, no more games." "Why should I?" "Because I'm done playing defense." I watched brake fluid stain the asphalt black, and because I know about the trust fund. Another sharp breath. "You're bluffing." Mom's not as careful with her papers as she used to be, especially after a few glasses of wine. I hadn't known for sure until her reaction confirmed it. "Does Kevin know where your designer wardrobe really comes from? That you've been stealing from your own parents?" "Tonight," she said quickly. "The old restaurant." I hung up, turning to find Mason watching me with concern. "Riley, whatever you're planning, help me clean this up." I gestured to the truck. "We have work to do." Nina stepped forward. "This isn't just about the business anymore, is it?" I picked up a torn magazine page, studying Sophie's carefully curated image. She thought teaching me a lesson meant breaking me down, but she taught me something else instead. "What's that?" "That some people only understand their own language." I started gathering supplies, mind already racing with plans. "She wants to play with fire? Fine, let's see who burns first." "You're starting to sound like her," Mason warned. "No." I faced him, feeling calmer than I had in months. "I'm starting to sound like someone who's finally stopped being afraid of her own shadow." The setting sun cast long shadows through the truck's windows, turning everything blood red. Tomorrow's catering event would have been my biggest yet, proof that I could build something lasting from nothing. Instead, I had a different kind of proving to do. "Nina, I need your help accessing some old Maison Rouge records. Mason, call Kevin. Tell him you have information about Sophie he needs to hear. Tina, start calling our regulars. Tell them we're planning something special." "What are you going to do?" Nina asked. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through recent photos until I found it. Sophie's signature on Dad's mortgage papers, perfectly forged. I'm going to give my sister exactly what she wants, all the attention she can handle. Maison Rouge's empty dining room felt like a tomb. Moonlight filtered through unwashed windows, casting shadows across tables where I'd once served my creations. Sophie sat at our usual family table, wearing white like she was going to her own funeral. "You're late," she said. I placed the folder between us. "So are these mortgage payments." Her perfectly manicured fingers didn't quite reach for it. You have no proof I forged anything, don't I? I slid out a document. Dad's signature looks different here than on the original loan, almost like someone practiced it dozens of times. A muscle twitched in her jaw. What do you want? The truth. For once. I leaned forward. Why did you do it? Was ruining my career not enough? Your career? She laughed, a brittle sound. You think this was about your little cooking hobby? Then what? They mortgaged everything for you first. Her voice cracked. Your culinary school, your internships, your equipment. There was nothing left for me. That's not. When I needed tuition, Dad had to take out loans. When I wanted to start my own business, they could barely afford groceries. Her eyes glittered, but precious Riley needed her dreams funded. The revelation hit like a physical blow. You never said anything. Would you have listened? You were too busy becoming the family's golden child, the one with real talent. Movement caught my eye. Kevin slipping through the kitchen door. Then Mason emerging from the shadows. Nina stepping out from behind a pillar. All according to plan. Sophie noticed too late. What is this? I stood, steady despite my racing heart. The truth, remember? Kevin, show her. He placed a USB drive on the table. The original inventory reports and other things. Sophie's face drained of color. You promised. He promised you, I corrected, just like you promised him love. But it was all manipulation, wasn't it? Riley, Mason warned, but I couldn't stop now. The trust fund transfers, the forged signatures, the fake health inspections, it's all documented. One anonymous tip to the right authorities. Sophie shot to her feet. You wouldn't dare. It would destroy Mom and Dad. Like you destroyed my reputation, my business? That was different. I was protecting yourself, I finished. Always yourself. She lunged for the USB drive, but Kevin snatched it away. I'm sorry, he whispered. I can't keep lying for you. The look she gave him could have frozen hell. After everything I did for you? You mean to him? Nina stepped forward. There's a difference. Sophie's composure cracked completely. You think you've won? That exposing me will fix anything? She pulled out her phone. Mom and Dad are on their way. Let's see who they believe. My stomach dropped. This wasn't part of the plan. What? You're not the only one who can set a trap. Her smile turned vicious. I told them you were having another breakdown, that you'd threatened to expose family secrets unless they came. Headlights swept across the windows. Car doors slammed. Riley, Mason grabbed my arm. We need to go. But I stood frozen as Mom and Dad burst in, their faces masks of concern and disappointment. Sophie, honey, are you okay? Mom rushed to her while Dad blocked my path to the door. What's the meaning of this? He demanded. Sophie's tears flowed perfectly on cue. She's trying to blackmail me, Daddy. Says she'll ruin us all unless... I looked at the folder in my hands, at the evidence that could destroy my sister's carefully constructed world, and realized she'd won again, because using it meant burning down what remained of our family. Riley? Dad's voice hardened. Explain yourself. The truth stuck in my throat like undercooked food. Everything I'd planned, every calculated move, had led to this moment. But looking at their faces, Mom's fear, Dad's anger, Sophie's hidden triumph, I realized the cost was too high. The folder slipped from my fingers, papers scattering across the floor. I'm sorry. I turned and ran, ignoring Mason's calls, Nina's protests, Kevin's guilty expression. Behind me, Sophie's voice rose in perfect victim pitch, spinning a story of her unstable sister's latest attack. Outside, rain had started to fall, washing away the last traces of my revenge like spilled wine on a white tablecloth. I'd tried to beat Sophie at her own game, only to discover she'd been playing a different one all along, and I'd lost everything in the process. 3 days after I ran from Maison Rouge, Mom showed up at my apartment door, clutching her purse like a shield. Her eyes widened at the sight of boxes stacked behind me. "You're leaving?" Nina offered me a position at her new restaurant in Seattle. She stepped inside uninvited, scanning the half-packed kitchen. "Sophie's in the hospital." The wooden spoon in my hand cracked. "Another performance?" "She tried to..." Mom's voice broke. "The doctors say it was a cry for help." "Everything she does is a cry for help." "Riley, please. Your father found the trust fund documents." I froze. "What?" They were scattered across Maison Rouge's floor. "He's been up all night going through everything." She pulled out a familiar folder, my evidence against Sophie. "He knows about the forgeries, the embezzlement, everything." My phone buzzed. Mason texting about flight details. I ignored it. "Kevin confessed, too," Mom continued, "about the restaurant sabotage, the false reports. Sophie's been..." She searched for words. "Unraveling." "And you want me to what? Feel sorry for her?" "I want you to understand." She opened the folder, revealing documents I hadn't seen before. "I've been keeping these for years. Every withdrawal from your culinary school fund, every loan payment. Sophie was right. We spent everything on your dreams first." The truth hit like scalding oil. "So this was my fault?" "No, sweetheart. It was ours." She pulled out another paper, a check stub. "We should have told you both the truth about the money, about our fears. Instead, we let Sophie believe she wasn't worth the same investment, and we let you believe you had to prove yourself worthy of it." My phone buzzed again. The Seattle job wouldn't wait forever. "Where is she?" Mom's relief was palpable. "Memorial Hospital. Your father's there now." The hospital room was eerily quiet except for machine beeps. Sophie looked small in the bed, her perfect makeup gone, her armor stripped away. Dad sat beside her, holding her hand, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "Come to finish what you started?" Sophie's voice was raw. "You did that yourself." Dad stood, but I waved him back down. "It's okay. We need to talk." "About what? How you won?" She laughed bitterly. "Congratulations. You destroyed everything." "No." I moved closer. "We destroyed everything. Both of us. Don't pretend we're the same. Aren't we? You forged signatures because you felt cheated. I built a food truck because I felt invisible. We both wanted to prove something. I never wanted to hurt anyone. Neither did I. But here we are." She turned away. "Just go to Seattle. Leave us to clean up your mess." "Our mess," I corrected. "And I'm not going anywhere." That got her attention. "What?" I pulled out my phone, showing her the message I just sent Nina. "I have to pass. Family emergency." "You're making a mistake," Sophie whispered. "Probably, but I'm done running from difficult recipes." Dad cleared his throat. "Riley, the restaurant board called. With Kevin's confession and the evidence of Sophie's involvement, I don't want my job back." I met Sophie's startled gaze. "I want to start fresh, build something new." "Why?" "Because we're both better than this version of ourselves." I reached for her hand, feeling it tremble in mine. "And because someone needs to show you there's more to life than being perfect." "I don't know how," she admitted, voice barely audible. "Neither do I, but I know how to create something from nothing, how to take raw ingredients and make them work together." I squeezed her hand. "Maybe we start there." Mom appeared in the doorway, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She stopped, taking in the scene. Her daughters holding hands, her husband wiping tears, the broken pieces of our family slowly shifting into a new configuration. The doctors want to discuss treatment options, she said softly. Sophie's hand tightened on mine. Will you stay? The question held more than just its surface meaning. Stay for the discussion. Stay in town. Stay and face the mess we'd made together. Yes, I said, pulling up a chair. I'll stay. Because sometimes the best recipes come from salvaging what's burned, from transforming bitter ingredients into something unexpectedly sweet. And sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about refusing to let them destroy themselves. The new restaurant's kitchen gleamed under fresh lights, everything in its place. I adjusted the frame holding my first review, not from a critic, but a simple social media post about my food truck's final day. The comments section overflowed with customers asking when Turner and Sister would open. These portions are wrong. Sophie's voice carried from the prep station. The recipe says, sometimes you have to trust your instincts, I called back. Not everything follows a perfect formula. She appeared in my office doorway, chef's whites still pristine despite hours of prep work. The investors are arriving in an hour. I know. And you're not worried? I smiled, remembering similar conversations from months of therapy sessions and cooking lessons. About the food? Never. The dining room slowly filled with familiar faces. Nina sat with Mason, their heads bent over wine selections. Kevin had declined his invitation, but sent a letter Sophie kept in her apron pocket. Mom and Dad arrived last, holding hands like nervous teenagers. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the room. Tonight's menu tells a story. Each dish represents a moment of transformation. Sophie stepped forward, her voice steady. We begin with a dual amuse-bouche, one bitter, one sweet. Together, they create something unexpected. The evening flowed like perfectly timed courses. Between service, I caught glimpses of my sister actually smiling, explaining to guests how she'd adapted my recipes to include her own touches. Mom wiped tears when she tasted our grandmother's updated soup recipe. Dad actually put down his phone. During dessert, Nina pulled me aside. Seattle's opening another location. Are you offering me a job again? No, she smiled. I'm offering you a partnership, both of you. I watched Sophie carefully plating chocolate work, her focus absolute. We're not ready. You are, but that's not why I'm here. She handed me an envelope. Your mother asked me to give you this. Said she's been adding to it since your first cooking class. Inside, I found years of receipts, notes, and photographs. Mom had documented everything. My culinary school applications, competition wins, even food truck permits. She'd been watching, supporting from the shadows, too afraid of disrupting the family's fragile balance to show it. Riley, Sophie called out, the final course. I tucked the envelope away. Coming, we presented the last dish together, a deconstructed version of that fateful birthday dinner. But this time, the heat came from carefully balanced spices, not hidden sabotage. It's perfect, Mom whispered, and for once, she was looking at both of us. Later, after the guests left and the kitchen was cleaned, Sophie and I sat at the bar, sharing the last slice of cake. I found another one of your old recipe notebooks, she said quietly. From before. Everything. And you wrote about teaching me to cook someday, about us working together. She pushed the plate away. I ruined that dream for you. No, I turned to face her. You just took a different path to get there. Why did you give me another chance? Because revenge wasn't making me a better chef or a better person. I stood, gathering our plates. And because some ingredients need time to develop their full flavor. She followed me to the kitchen, where tomorrow's prep lists waited. The critics will compare us, you know, try to pit us against each other again. Let them. I handed her a pen. We know the real recipe now. As we worked on the next day's menu, I thought about Nina's offer, Mom's secret support, the long road of healing ahead. Success wouldn't erase the past, but maybe it could help write a different future. Riley? Sophie's voice was hesitant. Thank you for not giving up on me. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw something new. Not the perfect daughter or the manipulative antagonist, but someone as complex as the dishes we created together. Someone worth the time and effort to understand. That's what family does, I said, and meant it. Now, about those portions. She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. And somewhere between the prep lists and tomorrow's specials, I realized that the best revenge hadn't been destroying Sophie's world or even building my own. It had been finding a way to create something new together, something neither of us could have made alone.
The sound of packing tape ripping through silence feels like someone tearing apart my life, strip by methodical strip. I stand frozen in our bedroom doorway, watching Mark seal another cardboard box. He hasn't noticed me yet, too focused on his careful labeling system, the same attention to detail that once made me fall in love with him. I'm Clara, and this is the moment my marriage ends. Not with the dramatic flair of a soap opera, but with the mundane sound of packing tape and marker squeaks. Were you planning to tell me, or just disappear while I was at work? My voice comes out steadier than I feel. Mark startles, dropping the marker. It rolls under our bed, the bed we picked out together at that overpriced furniture store his mother hated. You're home early. Clearly not early enough. I step into the room, my heels clicking against hardwood. Each step feels like I'm walking through molasses. How long have you been planning this? He doesn't answer immediately, just runs his hands through his hair. A nervous tick I used to find endearing. Clara, we both know this isn't working. Do we? Because I must have missed that conversation. I pick up one of his precisely labeled boxes. Winter clothes. It reads in his perfect architect's handwriting. When exactly did we decide this? Mother thinks... Of course. I laugh, but it sounds more like breaking glass. Vivian thinks. Vivian says. Vivian knows best. Tell me, Mark, do you even breathe without checking with her first? His face hardens. That's not fair. Fair? I set the box down hard enough to make him wince. Fair would be having an actual conversation about our marriage before you started packing it away in neat little boxes. Fair would be acknowledging that I'm your wife, not some temporary inconvenience standing between you and your mother's approval. You're being dramatic. He turns back to his packing, a dismissive gesture that ignites something fierce in my chest. Mother simply pointed out that our financial situations are fine. My business is growing. We're not struggling. Your little design projects aren't exactly reliable income. My little projects paid for half this house. I grab the box he's working on, dumping his carefully folded shirts onto the floor. And they'd be doing even better if your mother hadn't scared away 3 of my biggest clients last month. He freezes. What are you talking about? Oh, you didn't know. Funny how the Hendersons, the Patels, and Brighton Corp all suddenly pulled their contracts after meeting with your mother about property investments. I start counting on my fingers. The same mother who just happens to be pushing you to leave because I'm financially unstable. Mark's face pales slightly, but he recovers quickly. You're paranoid. Mother would never... Stop saying mother like she's some kind of saint. I grab another box, this one labeled important documents. Let's see what else she's been orchestrating, shall we? He lunges for the box, but I'm faster. Inside, beneath bank statements and insurance papers, I find a folder I've never seen before. The contents make my blood run cold. Detailed reports of my business dealings, copies of emails between my clients, even photos of me meeting with competitors. She's been having me followed? My hands shake as I flip through the papers. It's not what you think. Mark reaches for the folder, but I step back. Mother was just concerned about our future. She wanted to make sure that I was properly destroyed before you left me? I clutched the folder to my chest. How long have you known about this? His silence is answer enough. Get out! My voice is ice now, all the heat of anger crystallizing into something harder. Take your boxes and get out. But these... I wave the folder. These stay with me. Clara, please. I said get out! I throw the empty box at him. It bounces harmlessly off his chest, but he flinches as if I'd struck him. Go run to Mommy. Tell her she won, but make sure you tell her something else too. I step closer, lowering my voice. Tell her she just made the biggest mistake of her life. Mark stares at me for a long moment, then silently begins gathering his boxes. As he walks past me, he pauses. I'm sorry it ended this way. No, I say, watching him leave. You're not sorry it ended this way. You're just sorry I found out this way. The front door closes with a quiet click, but in my mind, it echoes like a gunshot. I sink onto our bed, my bed now, still clutching the folder of surveillance reports. Tears burn behind my eyes, but I refuse to let them fall. Instead, I open my phone and dial. Sophie, I need your help. It's time to make Vivian regret ever hearing my name. Sophie arrives with 2 bottles of wine and a determined expression that tells me she's already formulating plans. I've spent the last hour spreading the surveillance photos across my dining room table like some twisted puzzle. This is next-level crazy, Sophie says, examining a photo of me having lunch with the Hendersons last month. Who does this? Someone who's been planning to destroy me for years. I pour us both generous glasses of red. Look at the timestamps. She's been collecting these since before Mark and I even got married. Sophie picks up another photo. Wait, isn't this from your first meeting with Brighton Corp? 3 weeks ago, right before they mysteriously backed out of our contract. The wine tastes bitter. Vivian's fingerprints are all over it, but I can't prove anything, yet. My phone buzzes. Mark's number. I silence it. He's called 4 times today, Sophie notes, watching me. Maybe you should. What? Listen to more excuses? Watch him try to justify why his mother having me stalked was somehow for my own good? I grab one of the surveillance reports. Did you know she had someone track my business expenses for the past year? Every client meeting, every supply purchase, every late-night design session, all carefully documented to paint me as financially irresponsible. The doorbell rings. Sophie and I exchange glances. If that's Mark, I swear. I start, but Sophie's already heading to the door. I hear murmured voices, then Sophie returns with an envelope. Special delivery from the Dragon Lady herself. The envelope is heavy, expensive paper, with Clara, written in Vivian's precise handwriting. Inside is an invitation to her annual charity gala next weekend, along with a handwritten note. Dear Clara, I trust you'll handle this unfortunate situation with the dignity expected of someone who was, however briefly, part of our family. The gala would be an excellent opportunity to demonstrate that maturity. Vivian. She can't be serious, Sophie says, reading over my shoulder. I start laughing, the sound sharp and hollow. Oh, she's serious. This is what she does. Turns everything into a public performance. She wants to show everyone how graciously she's handling her son's failed marriage. You're not going. Of course I'm going. I grab my laptop. In fact, I'm going to make sure it's a night Vivian never forgets. Sophie sits beside me. Clara, wait. What are you thinking? I pull up my client list. Remember Thomas Chen, the tech millionaire whose startup I did branding for last year? The one Vivian tried to poach for her new development project? Exactly. He's been looking to invest in more properties, and I happen to know exactly where Vivian's weak spots are. I start typing an email. It's time to show her what my little design projects can really do. Clara. Sophie's voice is gentle. Are you sure you want to play her game? This woman's been manipulating people for decades. I'm not playing her game. I hit send. I'm starting my own. She wants to talk about financial stability. Let's see how stable her empire is when I start picking it apart, piece by piece. My phone buzzes again. Mark. This time I answer. Clara, please, he starts. Mother says, I got the invitation. I cut him off. Tell her I'll be there. You will? He sounds surprised, then suspicious. Why? Because that's what family does, right? Shows up for important events? I keep my voice sweet, knowing Vivian's probably listening. I wouldn't want to disappoint your mother. There's a long pause. Clara, whatever you're planning. Goodbye, Mark. Give my love to your mother. I hang up and find Sophie watching me with concern. You know this could get ugly. It already is ugly. I pull up another email, this one from the Hendersons, canceling a project we'd been planning for months. Vivian just doesn't realize it yet. My phone pings with a response from Thomas Chen. He's interested in meeting. Perfect, I murmur, then look at Sophie. Want to help me pick out a dress for the gala? Something that says, loving daughter-in-law, but also, I know where the bodies are buried? Sophie sighs, but reaches for her wine. You're really going to do this? I look at the surveillance photos spread across my table, each one a reminder of Vivian's careful, calculated destruction of my life. She thought she could break me down slowly, make me look like the unstable one who couldn't handle marriage to her precious son. I smile, and it feels dangerous. Time to show her what happens when you corner someone with nothing left to lose. The meeting with Thomas Chen takes place in a sleek downtown cafe, far from Vivian's usual haunts. He's exactly as I remember, sharp-eyed and direct, with no patience for small talk. Your proposal is interesting, he says, sliding through my presentation on his tablet. But I have to ask, why come to me specifically? I take a careful sip of espresso. Because you understand the value of disruption, Mr. Chen. And because Vivian Harrison tried to manipulate you last year. His expression doesn't change, but his fingers stop moving across the screen. Go on. She attempted to use your interest in the Riverside development to pressure other investors. When that failed, she spread rumors about your company's financial stability. I pull out my phone, showing him the relevant emails from my surveillance file. She cost you that deal. And now you're suggesting we work together to cost her something in return. He studies me over his cup. This feels personal. Everything Vivian does is personal. That's her weakness. I lean forward. The Davidson project she's been bragging about? It's built on false projections. I have proof. Before he can respond, movement near the cafe's entrance catches my eye. Mark walks in with his realtor friend, James. They haven't noticed me yet. Excuse me, I murmur to Thomas, sliding lower in my seat. But it's too late. Clara? Mark sounds surprised, then suspicious as he spots Thomas. What are you doing here? I straighten up, forcing a smile. Business meeting. You remember Thomas Chen? Mark's face pales slightly. Mr. Chen, I didn't realize you and Clara were acquainted. We go way back, Thomas says smoothly. Your wife's talent for spotting opportunities is remarkable. Ex-wife, Mark corrects quickly. And speaking of opportunities, I hope she mentioned that any business ventures in this area should really go through Vivian? I interrupt. Like the Riverside deal did? James tugs at Mark's sleeve. We're going to be late for that appointment. Actually, Thomas stands, gathering his things. I believe we're finished here. Clara, I'll have my team draw up the contracts. Your insight into local dynamics has been invaluable. After they leave, Mark rounds on me. What are you doing? Business, I repeat. You know, those little projects your mother's so concerned about? Stop it! He grabs my arm as I try to leave. Whatever you're planning with Chen. I wrench away. Don't touch me. You lost the right to question my business decisions when you let your mother destroy them. She was trying to protect our family's interests. Your family's interests. My laugh draws stares from nearby tables. Tell me, Mark, did those interests include having me followed, photographed, having my clients threatened? He runs a hand through his hair. That familiar gesture that used to mean stress, but now just reminds me of manipulation. It wasn't like that. Mother only wanted... I know exactly what she wanted. I gather my things, hands shaking slightly. And now she's going to get it. Just not the way she expected. My phone buzzes. Sophie sending details about the charity gala. Another message pops up from Thomas. Meeting set with Davidson investors. Tomorrow. Clara? Mark's voice has softened. Please don't do anything rash. Mother can make things very difficult. More difficult than destroying my marriage? My business? My reputation? I show him the surveillance photos on my phone. How much more difficult can it get, Mark? He stares at the photos, recognition flickering across his face. Where did you get these? From the files you left behind. The ones documenting every move I've made for the past 3 years. I lean closer, dropping my voice. Did you enjoy reading them? Did you and Vivian sit together, planning how to break me down piece by piece? It wasn't. I didn't. He stops, looking lost. I just wanted everyone to be happy. Well, congratulations. Your mother's happy. You're free to be her perfect son again. I start walking away, then pause. Oh, and Mark? Tell her I'm looking forward to the gala. I have so many people I want to introduce her to. Outside, I take deep breaths of cold air until my hands stop shaking. Thomas's message still glows on my screen, promising the first real crack in Vivian's carefully constructed empire. My phone buzzes again. Sophie. How did it go? She asks. I watch through the cafe window as Mark makes a call, his movements agitated. Probably warning Vivian. Better than expected, I answer. The game's changing, Sophie, and Vivian's about to learn she's not the only one who knows how to play. The Davidson investors meeting feels like a chess match, where every piece is made of glass. I sit quietly, watching Thomas Chen methodically dissect Vivian's project projections, while her face grows increasingly rigid. These numbers seem optimistic, Thomas says, tapping the spreadsheet, particularly given the current market conditions. I notice Vivian's perfectly manicured nails digging into her leather portfolio. She doesn't look at me, but I feel her awareness of my presence, like static electricity. The projections are sound, she replies smoothly. I've personally overseen every aspect of this development, so including the environmental impact reports. I slide a folder across the table, because these documents tell a rather different story. The room temperature seems to drop 10 degrees. Vivian's eyes finally meet mine, and I see something I've never witnessed before. Fear. Where did you get those? Her voice remains steady, but her knuckles are white. The same place you got your surveillance photos of me. I maintain eye contact. Interesting what people will share when they realize they're not the only ones you've manipulated. Thomas clears his throat. Ladies, perhaps we should focus on... This meeting is over. Vivian stands abruptly. These allegations are baseless and... Sit down, Vivian. The command comes from Robert Davidson himself, silent until now. I'd like to hear more about these discrepancies. My phone buzzes. A text from Sophie. 911. Mark at your house. Something wrong. I force myself to stay seated, even as my stomach twists. The environmental reports were altered, I continue, to hide contamination from previous industrial use. The cleanup costs alone would triple your projected expenses. That's impossible, Vivian snaps. Those reports were confidential, like the photos of me meeting clients, or the financial records you used to convince Mark I was unstable. My phone buzzes again. I ignore it. Robert Davidson leans forward. Mrs. Harrison, is there something you'd like to explain? The meeting dissolves into technical discussions and legal implications. I slip out during a heated exchange about soil samples, my phone now vibrating constantly. Mark is sitting on my porch steps, head in his hands. He looks up as I approach, and my sharp words die in my throat. His face is ashen. What happened? Mother had a heart attack. His voice is hollow. Right after some meeting, they took her to St. Mary's. The triumph I'd felt moments ago curdles in my stomach. Is she stable for now? He stands, swaying slightly. She was asking for you. I bark out a laugh. Me? Why would she? Because she knows. Mark's eyes are red-rimmed. About everything. The Davidson deal, Thomas Chen, The environmental reports. She said she underestimated you. My hands start shaking. Mark, did you know? He steps closer. About the contamination. About how exposing it wouldn't just ruin her, but everyone connected to the project? Including me? The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Of course, Vivian would have ensured Mark was legally entangled in the development. Of course, she'd use him as a shield. I stop, remembering all those nights I'd spent plotting, focusing only on Vivian. Had I become just like her, willing to destroy anything in my path? My phone rings. Sophie again. Clara, the Davidson story just broke online. It's bad. Really bad. I watch Mark's face as he receives a text, probably containing the same news. He looks like a man watching his world burn. I have to go, he says quietly. Mother's asking for her lawyers. He pauses at the bottom of the steps. You know what's funny? She always said you weren't strong enough for this family. Guess she was wrong about that too. After he leaves, I sit on the porch steps, staring at my phone as notifications flood in. The story is spreading fast. Vivian Harrison, prominent developer, caught in environmental scandal. Her empire beginning to crack. I should feel victorious. Instead, I remember the fear in her eyes at the meeting, so similar to what I'd felt when discovering Mark's packed boxes. The way revenge has turned me into someone who could hurt others without flinching. Sophie's car pulls up. She takes one look at my face and sits beside me. What have I done? I whisper. She takes my hand. Exactly what she taught you to do. My phone lights up with another call, this time from Thomas Chen, probably wanting to discuss damage control, next steps, the pieces of Vivian's empire now up for grabs. I let it ring. St. Mary's Hospital smells like artificial lemons and regret. I've been sitting in the waiting room for an hour, turning my phone over and over in my hands, watching news alerts pile up about the Davidson scandal. Each headline feels like another brick in a wall I can't tear down. You didn't have to come. Mark's voice startles me. He looks exhausted, suit wrinkled like he's been sleeping in it. Your text said she's asking for me. She is. He runs a hand through his hair. Though I'm not sure if that's a good thing. The walk to Vivian's private room feels endless. Through the window, I see her propped up in bed, looking smaller somehow. Vulnerable. It's unsettling, like seeing a lion with its teeth pulled. Clara! Her voice is weaker than usual, but her eyes are sharp as ever. Close the door. Mark hesitates. Mother, maybe we should... Out. One word, but it carries all her usual authority. He leaves, shoulders slumped. I remain standing, keeping my distance. You wanted to see me? Sit. She gestures to the chair beside her bed. We need to discuss terms. Terms? I almost laugh. I'm not here to negotiate. No? She picks up her phone, taps something, then shows me the screen. My breath catches. It's an email chain between Mark and several Davidson project investors, dating back months. His signature on documents he shouldn't have signed, proof of his involvement in the cover-up. You really think I wouldn't have insurance? Her smile is thin. Mark's fingerprints are all over this. One call, and he goes down with me. My hands clench. You'd destroy your own son? To protect him from himself? In a heartbeat. She sets the phone down. The question is, would you? The monitor beeps steadily in the silence. Through the window, I see Mark pacing in the hallway, phone pressed to his ear, probably talking to lawyers already. What do you want? Retraction, public statement claiming your evidence was misconstrued, technical error in the environmental reports. She lists each point like she's ordering dinner. In exchange, these emails disappear. My phone buzzes. Thomas Chen again. I've been dodging his calls since the story broke. And if I refuse? Then Mark faces criminal charges. His career, his reputation, everything gone. She adjusts her position, wincing slightly. You've proven your point, Clara. You're stronger than I thought. But ask yourself, Is revenge worth destroying the man you once loved? Before I can answer, there's a commotion in the hallway. Sophie bursts in, ignoring the nurse's protests. "Clara, don't say anything else." She waves her tablet. The Davidson Group just released their own statement. They're claiming full responsibility for the environmental cover-up. They're saying Vivian was misled too. Vivian's monitor spikes briefly. "What?" Sophie continues. Thomas Chen's team found evidence that Davidson's own environmental department falsified initial reports before bringing you in. They're taking the fall to avoid bigger investigations. I watch the color drain from Vivian's face as she processes this. Her perfect insurance policy, worthless. Mark's involvement, now a minor footnote in someone else's scandal. "You should rest, Vivian." I stand, finally meeting her eyes. "Stress isn't good for your heart." She grabs my wrist as I turn to leave. Her grip is surprisingly strong. "This isn't over." "Actually, it is." I gently remove her hand. "You taught me well. Always have a backup plan. Always be 3 steps ahead. The Davidson Group owes me a favor from an old project. Calling it in was expensive, but worth it. You couldn't have known that you'd try to sacrifice your own son to save yourself?" I move toward the door. "Maybe not, but I knew you'd try something. You're predictable that way." In the hallway, Mark stares at me like he's seeing me for the first time. "The Davidson statement. Did you?" "You should call your lawyer," I tell him. "Make sure you're protected when they start official investigations. And Mark?" I pause, feeling the weight of Vivian's glare through the window. "Maybe it's time to start making your own decisions." Sophie falls into step beside me as we leave. "That was intense. You okay?" I look back at the hospital room, where Vivian sits alone, her empire crumbling despite her desperate grab for control. The victory tastes different than I expected. Not sweet, not bitter, just empty. "No," I answer honestly. "But I will be." My phone buzzes again, another news alert about the scandal. I switch it off without reading it. Some victories don't need an audience. The charity gala feels like walking into a beautifully decorated trap. Crystal chandeliers throw fractured light across faces I've known for years. Clients, competitors, friends who've chosen sides in the wake of the Davidson scandal. Their whispers follow me like perfumed shadows. "Quite brave of her to show up." "Did you hear about Vivian's condition?" "I heard she orchestrated the whole thing." Sophie squeezes my arm. "We can still leave." "No." I straighten my spine, gripping my champagne flute like a shield. This is exactly where I need to be. Across the room, Mark stands with a group of investors, his usual confidence replaced by something more brittle. He catches my eye, then quickly looks away. The gesture feels like a preview of what's to come. "Clara!" Thomas Chen materializes beside me. "A word?" We move to a quieter corner, where the orchestra's music provides cover for conversation. His expression is grave. The Davidson Group is retracting their statement. The champagne turns sour in my mouth. They can't. We had a deal. They found better terms elsewhere. He glances meaningfully across the room, to where Vivian has just entered, looking remarkably recovered. She's speaking with Robert Davidson himself, their heads close together. "That's impossible. The evidence has been re-examined." Thomas's voice is carefully neutral. "New experts suggest different interpretations. My hands are tied." The room suddenly feels too warm, too crowded. "When?" "The announcement goes out tomorrow morning." "Clara." He hesitates. "You might want to prepare for—" "Clara!" Vivian's voice cuts through the murmur of conversation. She's walking toward us, Robert Davidson in tow. "I'm so glad you came. We have something to discuss." The crowd parts around them like water. I feel dozens of eyes watching, waiting for the drama to unfold. This is what Vivian does best, turns private wars into public spectacles. "I'm not interested in—" "Oh, but you should be." Her smile is razor sharp. "Robert has just shared some fascinating insights about certain manipulated documents. Apparently, someone went to great lengths to create a very specific narrative." My heart pounds. The environmental reports. were perfectly accurate. Robert Davidson steps forward. The altered versions, however, seem to have originated from an interesting source, your design firm's servers, to be precise. The champagne flute slips from my fingers, shattering on the marble floor. The crash draws every eye in the room. That's not possible. But even as I say it, I remember giving Thomas's team access to my systems, trusting them to handle the technical details. You set me up. Vivian's smile widens. I told you once that you weren't strong enough for this family. I should have been more specific. You're not smart enough either. Mark appears at her side, looking sick. Mother, please. Not now, dear. She turns to the gathering crowd. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. As you may have heard, I've had some health challenges recently, but they've helped me realize what truly matters: family, loyalty, and truth. The word truth falls like a hammer. Several phones are out now, recording. Tomorrow's headlines writing themselves in real time. Clara thought she could destroy what I've built. Vivian's voice carries perfectly. Instead, she's demonstrated exactly why I was right about her all along. Amateur moves have amateur consequences. I look for Sophie, but she's been pushed to the edge of the crowd. Thomas Chen has vanished completely. The trap closes with elegant precision. Security will escort you out. Vivian's final twist of the knife. And Clara, expect to hear from our lawyers. Fraud charges are just the beginning. As two suited men approach, I catch a last glimpse of Mark's face. There's something there. Regret? Pity? But he doesn't move to help. Some patterns never change. Outside, the night air hits like a slap. Sophie rushes out behind me. Clara, wait! We can fix this! There must be something! Don't you see? My laugh sounds hysterical even to my own ears. She planned this from the moment I found those surveillance photos. Everything. The hospital, the Davidson statement, Thomas Chen. It was all part of her game. What are you going to do? I stare up at the gala's glittering windows, where life continues as if my world hasn't just imploded. Somewhere up there, Vivian is savoring her victory, probably already planning her next move. The only thing I can do. My voice steadies. Learn to play better. The flash drive feels impossibly heavy in my hand as I stand outside Vivian's office. Through the glass walls, I can see her at her desk, orchestrating her empire's recovery with practiced ease. The fraud charges against me are still pending, but she's already moved on to new victories. She looks up as I enter, her smile sharp as broken glass. Clara, security didn't mention you had an appointment. They're busy dealing with the press downstairs. I close the door behind me. Something about anonymous tips regarding offshore accounts and falsified insurance claims. The smile freezes. More desperate accusations? Haven't you learned? Actually, I learned exactly what you taught me. I placed the flash drive on her desk. About keeping receipts, about having insurance. She doesn't touch it. What is this? Everything. Your real financial records. The bribes to building inspectors. The money laundering through shell companies. I tap the drive. Even that interesting transfer to Thomas Chen's private account right before the gala. You're bluffing. Mark helped me find it. That lands. For the first time, real fear flickers across her face. Mark would never... Check your phone. She does, and I watch the color drain from her face as she reads whatever message Mark has just sent. When she looks up, her composure is cracked. What do you want? Funny. That's exactly what you asked me in the hospital. I sit down, uninvited. But I'm not here to negotiate. Then why? Because I want you to understand something. I lean forward. You didn't lose because I outsmarted you. You lost because you taught Mark the same lessons you taught me, about survival, about loyalty, about always having an escape plan. Her hand trembles slightly as she reaches for her phone again. I can still destroy you. One call. To who? The Davidson Group? I pull out my own phone, showing her the email chain. They're already distancing themselves. Seems their board doesn't appreciate being used in personal vendettas. Bad for business. A commotion rises from the lobby below. Through the glass walls, we can see reporters gathering, cameras ready. They're here for the press conference, I tell her. The one where Mark explains how his mother's company has been operating for the past decade. Unless what? Her voice is barely a whisper. Unless you sign everything over to him. Today. Let him run the company his way without your guidance. She laughs, but it sounds hollow. You think this will fix anything? That Mark will suddenly become his own man? No, but it gives him a chance. I stand. Which is more than you ever gave either of us. The elevator dings. Mark steps out, flanked by board members and lawyers. Through the glass, our eyes meet. He looks different, stronger maybe, or just free. You've destroyed my family, Vivian says quietly. No, you did that yourself. I just showed Mark the evidence. She stares at the flash drive for a long moment. Below, the crowd of reporters grows. Her empire teeters on the edge of exposure, ready to crumble. He's my son, and he deserves better than what you've given him. I move toward the door. You have 10 minutes to decide. After that, Mark starts talking. You really think you've won? She calls after me. That this makes you better than me? I pause, hand on the doorknob. No, it makes me exactly like you. That's what scares you most, isn't it? The look on her face tells me I'm right. As I walk away, I hear her calling for her lawyers. Through the glass, I watch her pick up the flash drive with trembling fingers. Mark meets me at the elevator. Did she? Give her a minute. I press the lobby button. She taught us both about power, Mark. Now she gets to learn about losing it. He nods slowly. What happens after? That's up to you. The elevator starts descending. But whatever you decide, make sure it's actually your decision. As we reach the lobby, my phone buzzes. A message from Vivian's lawyer. She's ready to sign. You know, Mark says quietly, she'll never forgive either of us for this. I watch the numbers count down, floor by floor. Some victories aren't about forgiveness. The elevator doors open to camera flashes and shouted questions. Mark straightens his tie, ready to face them, ready to start over. I step back, letting him take the lead. Some battles you win by walking away. The moving boxes in Vivian's office look wrong somehow. Too ordinary for the end of an empire. She's taking down her awards when I arrive, each acrylic testament to her success carefully wrapped in newspaper. Come to gloat? She doesn't turn around. No. I set a folder on her desk. To return these. She glances at the surveillance photos spilling out. Keep them as a souvenir. I don't need souvenirs. I watch her hands shake slightly as she wraps another award. The company announcement went out this morning. Mark's doing well. He's gutting everything I built. Finally, she faces me. The past month has aged her decade. Was that your idea or his? You really still don't understand, do you? I pick up one of her photos. Her and Mark at some charity event, both smiling perfectly. He's not destroying your legacy, he's fixing it. Her laugh is bitter. By exposing our methods, canceling profitable contracts, that's not fixing, that's surrender. That's integrity. I set the photo down. Something you taught him to fake so well, he finally wanted the real thing. A knock interrupts us. Mark stands in the doorway, looking uncertain. These days, he always looks uncertain when his mother's involved, like he's still learning to trust his own judgment. The board meeting's starting, he tells her. They're waiting for your formal resignation. Vivian straightens her jacket. Armor for one last battle. I suppose you'll both enjoy watching this. Actually, I'm leaving. I move toward the door. This part isn't about me. Mark catches my arm as I pass. Clara, wait. I never thanked you. Don't. I gently pull away. Just do better, both with the company and... I glance at Vivian, still proud even in defeat, with family. Hey, is that what we are now? Vivian's voice stops me. Family? No, but maybe someday Mark can have one that doesn't run on fear. Outside, Sophie waits by her car. She's been my constant through all this, watching me become someone she probably doesn't fully recognize anymore. "Ready for your meeting?" she asks. I nod. My new design firm launches next week. Bigger projects, bigger clients, built on reputation rather than revenge. It feels strange, starting over. Good strange? I look back at the building where I first learned about power, both wielding it and surviving it. Through the windows, I can see Mark leading Vivian toward the boardroom, their shadows stretching long against the glass. Just strange. I get into the car. "Did you know Vivian called me yesterday? Said she's finally proud of me, that I proved her right about what it takes to succeed in this world." Sophie starts the engine. "Did you tell her where to stick her pride?" "No." I watch the building shrink in the side mirror. Because part of me thinks she's right. I became exactly what she always wanted Mark to be, someone willing to burn everything down to win. "You're nothing like her." "Aren't I?" I used her own tactics against her. Played her game, just better. I turn away from the mirror. The difference is, I chose to walk away after winning. She never could. Sophie navigates through traffic in silence for a moment. "So what now? Now?" I pull out my phone, where an email from Mark waits unread. Probably about the company transition, or maybe something more personal. I leave it unopened. Now I figure out who I am without revenge driving every decision. And if Vivian tries something else? I think about the final piece of leverage I still have. Evidence I never showed Mark. Proof of crimes that would destroy what's left of his relationship with his mother. It sits in a safe deposit box, my own insurance policy, my own piece of Vivian's legacy. Then I'll remember what winning really cost. I switch off my phone. Some victories feel like losses when you look at them right. Sophie pulls up to my new office building. The sign company is just finishing installing my company's logo. Clean, modern, nothing like the Harrison aesthetic. You know what the weird part is? I gather my things. I think Vivian finally respects me. Not for beating her, but for knowing when to stop. Is that enough? I step out into the morning sun, looking up at my name against the clear sky. It has to be. Otherwise, I'm just another version of her, waiting to self-destruct. The door closes behind me with a soft click, final as a period at the end of a very long sentence.
The sound of shattering crystal pierced the elegant dining room, followed by my mother's shrill laughter. Not the warm kind, the type that slices through conversation like a blade. I watched my father's face drain of color as the remnants of his vintage wine collection dripped down the cream wallpaper. "I'm Catherine, and this was the moment I decided my mother had to pay." "Really, Michael?" Mother's voice dripped with disdain. "You can't even afford to maintain your precious wines properly. Those racks were clearly unstable." She dabbed her napkin delicately at non-existent wine spots on her designer blouse. The entire family sat frozen around the mahogany table. Uncle James, Aunt Patricia, Cousin Sophie, and my brother Tom. Even Emily, Mother's ever-present best friend, seemed uncomfortable. The only movement was the steady crimson stream flowing across the hardwood floor. Father's hands trembled slightly as he gripped his fork. "Laura, please, not now." "Oh, but when?" Mother's eyes glittered dangerously. "When should we discuss how you've been lying to everyone about our financial situation? Pretending everything's fine while you're practically begging the bank for extensions." I gripped my knife harder, knuckles white. The metal felt cool against my palm. "Mother," Tom started, but she cut him off with a wave. "Your father," she announced to the table, "has been living beyond his means for years. All those business dinners, client meetings, just desperate attempts to maintain appearances. And now we're all paying the price." Father's shoulders slumped. I'd never seen him look so defeated. This man who'd worked 16-hour days, who'd never missed a single one of my dance recitals, despite his crushing schedule, who still brought Mother flowers every Friday, even after she'd stopped acknowledging them. "The country club membership," Mother continued, her voice rising, "the summer house, the children's trust funds, all smoke and mirrors. Sophie started crying quietly. Tom reached for her hand under the table. "Laura," Emily ventured, "maybe this isn't the best time." "It's the perfect time." Mother stood, swaying slightly. The wine glass in her hand threatened to spill with each gesture. Everyone should know what a fraud Michael Reynolds really is. I watched Father's face carefully. Each word hit him like a physical blow, but he wouldn't defend himself. He never did. Not against her. The thing about revenge is that it doesn't announce itself with trumpets and lightning. It creeps in during moments like these, when you're watching someone you love being systematically destroyed by someone who promised to love them. "I've protected you for too long," Mother declared, "covered for your failures, made excuses to our friends. Well, I'm done." That's when I saw it, the slight curl of satisfaction at the corners of her mouth. This wasn't a spontaneous outburst. She'd planned this humiliation, invited the family specifically to witness it. Even the wine rack's collapse seemed suspiciously timed. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. The sound drew everyone's attention, even Mother's. "Sit down, Catherine," she snapped. "This doesn't concern you, but it did. Every scheme, every manipulation, every calculated cruelty. It had all been building to this moment. I'd spent years watching her orchestrate these little incidents, each one designed to chip away at Father's dignity. "Actually," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "I think it concerns all of us." Mother's eyes narrowed. "Don't test me, young lady." "Or what?" I stepped away from the table. "You'll reveal my secrets too? Go ahead. Unlike Father, I don't have anything left to lose." The room fell silent except for the steady drip of wine hitting the floor. Mother and I stared at each other across the ruins of what was supposed to be a family dinner. In her eyes, I saw something I'd never noticed before. Fear. She knew. She knew that I'd finally seen through her carefully constructed facade. And for the first time in my life, I saw my mother for what she truly was. Not an unstoppable force, but a desperate woman clinging to control. I walked out of the dining room that night, leaving behind the wreckage of crystal, wine, and family ties. But I took something with me, a purpose. Mother had spent years crafting her perfect image, building her web of lies and manipulation. Now it was my turn to start weaving. She'd taught me well, after all. Perhaps too well. 3 days after the dinner disaster, I found Mother holding court at Rosewood Country Club. She'd positioned herself perfectly. Center table, afternoon sun casting a golden halo around her carefully styled hair. Emily sat beside her, both of them surrounded by a cluster of society women who hung on Mother's every word. "It's been so difficult," Mother dabbed at dry eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. "Managing everything alone while Michael focuses on his issues." My coffee cup clinked sharply against its saucer. I'd chosen a corner table, hidden behind a large fern, but close enough to hear every perfectly crafted lie. "You're so brave, Laura," one of the women cooed, "and still so generous, hosting the summer benefit despite everything." Emily nodded sympathetically. "Laura never lets personal troubles interfere with her charitable work." I nearly laughed. Mother's charitable work mainly involved organizing expensive galas where she could showcase her latest designer purchases and network with potential allies. The actual charities received pittances compared to the event costs. My phone buzzed. "Tom, where are you? Need to talk." "Ladies, if you'll excuse me." Mother stood, smoothing her silk dress. "I have a meeting with the event planner. Emily, would you mind handling the final details?" "Of course, darling." Emily's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Interesting." I waited until Mother left before approaching their table. Emily's face tightened when she saw me. "Catherine, what a surprise." "Emily," I slid into Mother's vacant chair. "Enjoying your role as chief enabler today?" The other women shifted uncomfortably. Emily's laugh was brittle. "I don't know what you mean." "No?" I pulled out my phone, scrolling through photos. So these credit card statements showing Mother's shopping sprees using Father's business account. That's not something you've been helping her hide? Emily's perfectly manicured hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. Those are private matters between your parents. Nothing's private when it's fraud, Emily. I kept my voice low, pleasant. How long have you been helping her doctor the accounts? I should go. Emily gathered her things quickly. Ladies, excuse me. I watched her practically run from the dining room. The remaining women stared at me, scandalized and intrigued. Oh, don't let me interrupt your lunch, I smiled. I'm sure Mother will have a fascinating explanation for everything when she returns. My phone buzzed again. Tom. Seriously, Kath, it's about Mom. I found Tom in the club's library, pacing between leather armchairs. What's wrong? She's selling the summer house. He ran fingers through his hair. Without telling Dad. She can't, it's in both their names. She forged his signature on the papers. Tom collapsed into a chair. I saw them on her desk this morning when I dropped off Sophie. The summer house, where we'd spent every August of our childhood, where Father taught us to sail, where Tom had proposed to Sophie's mother, where I'd... Does Father know? Tom shook his head. She's telling everyone he agreed to it, that it's part of their financial restructuring. He made air quotes, face twisted with disgust. When's the sale supposed to close? Next week. Some cash buyer she found through Emily's real estate connections. He looked up at me. We have to stop her, Kath. I sat down slowly, mind racing. Maybe we don't. What? Maybe instead of stopping her, we let her hang herself. I leaned forward. Think about it. Forged documents, fraudulent sale, conspiracy with Emily. That's not just unethical, it's criminal. You want to let her commit fraud? I want to catch her committing fraud, with witnesses, evidence, something she can't talk her way out of. Tom's face paled. That would destroy her. She's destroying herself, Tom. We'd just be making sure everyone sees it. He stood abruptly. I can't be part of this. She's still our mother. Is she? I watched him pace again. When was the last time she acted like one? Before he could answer, the library door opened. Mother stood there, Emily hovering anxiously behind her. Well, Mother's voice was ice. What a cozy little family meeting. Discussing anything interesting? I met her gaze steadily. Just catching up. You know how it is. So many secrets to keep track of these days. Something flickered in her eyes. Uncertainty? Fear? But her smile remained fixed, perfect. Dinner at home tonight, she announced. Both of you. No excuses. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Catherine, stay away from Emily. She doesn't need your accusations. After she left, Tom grabbed my arm. What are you going to do? I watched Mother's retreating figure through the library windows, already rehearsing her next performance for someone new. Whatever it takes. The bank statements spread across my desk like fallen leaves, each one revealing another piece of Mother's elaborate financial maze. Credit card charges for spa weekends, labeled as business meetings. Cash withdrawals that coincided with her shopping sprees, logged as office supplies. And there, buried in the latest statement, a wire transfer to an offshore account. My new office at Morton & Pierce offered the perfect vantage point for my investigation. Through the glass walls, I watched Daniel approach, 2 coffee cups in hand. You look like you're planning a murder, he said, setting 1 cup beside me. Just following the money. I pushed a statement toward him. See anything interesting? He studied it, frowning. These transactions, they're all routed through shell companies. His eyes widened. Wait, isn't this your father's business account? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with Tom's face. Hey, what's... She's selling my house. His voice cracked. The one Sarah and I bought for Sophie. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. What? Mom convinced Sarah to sign over her power of attorney last month. Said it was to help with Sophie's college fund. Tom's laugh was hollow. Now she's liquidating everything, claiming it's to protect us from Dad's financial irresponsibility. Daniel watched me grip the phone tighter. I'll call you back, I managed. There's more, Tom said quickly. Emily came to see me. She's scared, Kath. Says Mum's been having her falsified documents for years. Bank records, property deeds. Where are you? Home. Sophie's at school. Stay there. I stood, gathering the statements. And Tom, don't tell Mother you talked to me. Daniel followed me to the elevator. You're not going alone. I have to. This is family. Exactly why you shouldn't face it alone. He held the elevator door. Besides, you might need a witness. The drive to Tom's house was silent except for the rustle of papers as Daniel reviewed more statements. Finally, he spoke. Your mother's not just manipulating people. She's committing serious fraud. I know. Then why haven't you? Because prison's too easy. I turned onto Tom's street. She needs to lose everything she values first. Her reputation, her social standing, her control. Emily's car sat in Tom's driveway, its driver's door still open. Inside, voices echoed from the kitchen. You promised. Emily's voice shook. You said this was just about protecting the family assets. It is. Mother's tone was silk over steel. And you're going to help me finish it unless you want everyone to know about those irregularities in your real estate licenses. I stepped into the doorway. What irregularities would those be, Mother? She spun around, face composed except for a slight twitch near her left eye. Catherine, what a surprise. Is it? I moved closer, Daniel a steady presence behind me. Or did you expect me once you started targeting Tom? I'm protecting your brother from your father's mistakes. She smiled at Tom, who stood pale and rigid by the sink. Someone has to think about this family's future. By stealing his house? By threatening Emily? Threatening? Mother laughed. Emily and I are dear friends, aren't we, Emily? Emily stared at her hands. Laura, please, this isn't what we discussed. What we discussed doesn't matter anymore. Mother's voice hardened. What matters is loyalty. Something my children seem to have forgotten. Loyalty. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through documents. Like the loyalty you showed father when you started embezzling from his company, or when you forged his signature on loan applications. Her composure cracked slightly. You've been spying on me. No, Mother. I've been watching you destroy our family for years. Now I'm finally doing something about it. She moved suddenly, reaching for my phone. Daniel stepped between us. That's enough, Laura, he said quietly. Mother's eyes narrowed. And who exactly are you? Someone who's seen enough evidence to know you're in serious trouble. She looked around the kitchen, at Tom's distress, Emily's fear, my determination. For a moment, something like uncertainty crossed her face. Then she smiled, reaching for her purse. Well, this has been enlightening. Tom, darling, we'll discuss the house later. Emily, I expect those papers by tomorrow. If you touch Tom's house, I said as she reached the door, I'll release everything. Every transaction, every forged document, every threat. She paused, hand on the doorknob. You wouldn't dare destroy this family. You already have. I'm just making sure everyone knows who's responsible. After she left, Emily broke down, confessing everything. Tom paced, processing the revelations. Daniel quietly documented it all. And I finally saw the path forward clearly. Mother had taught me well about masks and manipulation. Now it was time to put those lessons to use. Daniel's apartment became our war room, walls covered with financial records and sticky notes mapping Mother's web of deception. 3 weeks of late nights had revealed a pattern more intricate than I'd imagined. Look at this. Daniel pointed to a series of transactions. Every major withdrawal coincides with a deposit into Emily's account, then gets redistributed to these shell companies. I traced the money trail with my finger. She's been planning this for years. Planning what? To make father look incompetent. Each failed investment, every poor business decision, she orchestrated all of it. My phone buzzed. Father's name lit up the screen. Catherine. His voice sounded tired. Are you busy? 20 minutes later, I found him in his office, surrounded by empty boxes. The nameplate on his desk, Michael Reynolds, CEO, lay face down. "The board voted this morning," he said without looking up, effective immediately. My throat tightened. "They can't do that. You built this company." "With fraudulent loans, apparently." He finally met my eyes. "Did you know?" "About what?" "Your mother's activities." He pushed a folder across the desk. The board received these anonymously. Inside were copies of loan applications, all bearing his forged signature. But something was wrong. The dates, the amounts, they didn't match my research. "These are fake," I said. "They're very real." He rubbed his face. Laura admitted everything when they confronted her. Said she was trying to save the company from my mismanagement. My phone buzzed again. "Tom, Mom's calling everyone. Says Dad embezzled millions. People are believing her." "She's lying," I told Father. "I can prove it. It doesn't matter anymore." He stood, starting to pack his desk. "The damage is done." I drove straight to Daniel's, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. He opened the door before I could knock. "Your mother just called the office," he said. "She's telling everyone your father." "I know." I pushed past him to our evidence wall. "But these dates are wrong. She's created a whole new narrative." "How?" "Emily." I yanked down several documents. She didn't just help Mother hide money. She helped her create a paper trail framing Father. Daniel caught my arm as I reached for more papers. "Kathy, stop. Think. Why now?" "Because..." I froze, realization hitting like ice water. "The charity gala. She's hosting it next week. At the country club," Daniel nodded, "where everyone who matters will be watching. She's not just destroying Father's reputation." My laugh sounded hollow. "She's going to play the victim in front of the entire social circle. The loyal wife who discovered her husband's betrayal." My phone lit up with messages. Society friends expressing shock and sympathy, all to Mother. Board members distancing themselves from Father. Even Tom's in-laws were questioning their connection to our family. "She's winning," I whispered. Daniel studied the evidence wall. "Maybe not. Look at the real timeline we've built. If we could prove these new documents are forgeries, we'd need Emily's help." I pulled out my phone. "And she's terrified of Mother. Then we give her something more terrifying." Daniel grabbed his laptop. "Your mother's not the only one who can create a paper trail." I watched him work, something cold settling in my chest. "You want to threaten Emily?" "I want to give her a choice." He turned the screen toward me. "Between your mother's threats and actual proof of her own crimes." The document he'd created detailed every fraudulent transaction Emily had processed, every false document she'd notarized, enough to end her career, possibly send her to prison. "This makes us just like her," I said quietly. "No." Daniel closed the laptop. "It makes us better players at her game." My phone buzzed one final time. "Mother." "Darling, I need you at the gala planning meeting tomorrow. Time to show everyone how our family handles crisis with grace." I stared at the message, remembering every lesson she'd taught me about manipulation and control, about using people's fears against them, about winning at any cost. "Make the call to Emily," I told Daniel. He hesitated. "Are you sure?" I looked at Father's nameplate, which I'd taken from his desk, at the evidence of Mother's betrayal surrounding us, at the years of calculated destruction she'd orchestrated. Mother always said I was just like her. I picked up my phone. Time to prove her right. Emily's hands shook as she slid the USB drive across the cafe table. "Everything's here. Transaction records, forged documents, even Laura's private emails." She glanced nervously over her shoulder. "If she finds out..." "She won't." I pocketed the drive. "Unless you tell her." "You don't understand. She's planning something big for the gala. Something about Sophie." My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. "What about Sophie?" "I overheard her on the phone. She's using Tom's custody agreement against him. Said something about proving Sarah unfit." The cup clattered against the saucer. Of course Mother would target Sophie, the one person Tom would sacrifice everything to protect. My phone buzzed. Daniel, your mother just called a board meeting, emergency session. I have to go. I stood, leaving cash for the coffee. Remember our deal, Emily? One word to mother. I know. She wouldn't meet my eyes. The evidence goes public. The elevator ride to the boardroom felt endless. Through the glass walls, I could see mother holding court, dressed impeccably in pearl grey. The perfect grieving wife. Catherine. She smiled as I entered. Perfect timing. I was just explaining the new company structure. The board members avoided my gaze. Chairman Wilson cleared his throat. Given the circumstances, we feel it's best to implement immediate changes. Changes? I scanned the room. Where's Tom? Your brother has taken a leave of absence. Mother's voice carried just the right note of concern. The stress of your father's actions has been difficult for him. Lies. Tom would never abandon the company voluntarily, unless... My phone vibrated. Tom. Mom has proof Sarah relapsed, says she'll use it unless I step down. The board has appointed me interim CEO, Mother continued smoothly, to restore stability and trust. The room spun slightly. All those years of careful planning, of gathering evidence, she'd outmaneuvered us again. Congratulations, I managed. I'm sure Father would be proud. Her smile flickered. Speaking of your father, he's agreed to seek treatment. The strain of his financial improprieties clearly affected his judgment. Treatment. She'd somehow convinced him to admit himself to a facility, to complete her narrative of the troubled businessman who'd lost his way. Chairman Wilson stood. We'll release a statement this afternoon. Catherine, given your position and family connection, we think it's best if you take some time off as well. Of course. I gathered my things, feeling Mother's triumphant gaze. I wouldn't want to compromise the company's recovery. Daniel was waiting in my office. How bad? She's won. I sank into my chair. The company, Tom's position, Sophie's custody, she's taking everything. Not yet. He pulled out his laptop. The USB from Emily. I handed it over, watching him work. After a moment, he turned the screen toward me. Look at these timestamps. The documents framing your father. They were created after he was forced out. She's getting sloppy. It doesn't matter. I gestured at the empty office. She has control now. Then we move up the timeline. Daniel leaned forward. The gala's tomorrow night. Every major player in town will be there, including the DA's office. You want to expose her publicly? I want to give her exactly what she wants, all eyes on her perfect performance. Then we show everyone who she really is. My phone lit up with a text from Sophie. Dad's acting weird. Grandma says we're moving to the summer house. What's happening? The summer house, where Mother could isolate them, control the narrative completely. If we do this, I said slowly, there's no going back. The company, our reputation, the family, everything changes. It's already changed. Daniel's hand covered mine. The question is, who controls the ending? I thought of Father, alone in some facility, of Tom, sacrificing his career for Sophie, of every calculated move Mother had made to build her empire of lies. The gala starts at 8, I said. We'll need Emily's help one more time. She might run. No. I pulled up Mother's latest email, an invitation to join her at the head table tomorrow night, the prodigal daughter returning to support her family. She'll do exactly what Mother taught us both to do. Which is? I showed him my RSVP. Looking forward to celebrating with you, Mother. You deserve everything that's coming. She'll wait for the perfect moment to strike. The country club ballroom glittered like a jewel box, but all I could see was Mother's reflection, multiplied in every mirror, each version of her more perfect than the last. She stood at the podium, resplendent in black silk, addressing the crowd with practiced grief. In times of crisis, family is everything. Her voice caught perfectly. Though Michael's actions have shocked us all, we must focus on healing. Daniel's hand brushed mine under the table. The USB drive felt heavy in my clutch. One presentation, already loaded onto the club's system, waiting for Emily's signal. "Where's Tom?" I whispered. "Still not here." Daniel checked his phone. No response. Mother continued, "As the new CEO of Reynolds Industries, I promise to restore not just our company's reputation, but our family's legacy." The audience applauded. I scanned the crowd, board members, society matrons, even the district attorney, all hanging on her performance. But no Emily. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. "Check your email, now." The attachment showed Sophie and Tom at the summer house, timestamp from an hour ago. Below it, a message. "Mother knows. They're safe. Stay away." "Emily's not coming." My voice sounded distant. "Mother has them." Daniel started to stand. "We can still..." "Ladies and gentlemen," Mother's voice cut through the murmur. "I'd like to invite my daughter Catherine to say a few words about family, about truth." The spotlight found me. Hundreds of eyes turned, expecting the dutiful daughter's support of her brave mother. I rose slowly, each step toward the podium feeling like moving through water. Mother's smile never wavered, but her eyes were arctic. "I've learned so much about family recently," I began. The prepared speech felt like ashes in my mouth. "About loyalty, about consequences." Mother's smile tightened fractionally. In the crowd, I spotted the DA leaning forward. "My mother..." I stopped, seeing Tom's face in my mind, Sophie's future hanging by a thread. "Go on, darling." Mother touched my arm, her fingers like steel. "Tell them what you've discovered." The USB drive weighed 1,000 pounds. Every piece of evidence, every carefully gathered proof of her crimes, useless against her final manipulation. "My mother has shown incredible strength," I heard myself say. "Taking control of the company, protecting our family's interests while father recovers." The words tasted like poison. Mother's grip relaxed slightly. "I know there have been rumors," I continued. "Questions about certain financial decisions." Daniel stood abruptly, but I couldn't look at him. "I want to clarify that any irregular transactions were authorized by my father. Mother simply tried to hide them, to protect him, to protect all of us." The lie hung in the air like smoke. Mother's smile widened triumphantly. "Thank you, Catherine." She embraced me, whispering, "Sophie will be so relieved." The rest of the evening blurred. I watched Mother accept condolences, praise for her resilience. Watched the DA leave, satisfied there was no story here. Watched my chance at justice evaporate like morning dew. Daniel found me on the terrace, staring at nothing. "She won," I said before he could speak. "She finally taught me what family really means. Kathy, it means knowing exactly where to put the knife." I pulled out my phone, showing him the summer house photo. She knew. All along, she knew what we were planning, and she made sure I knew the cost of betrayal. "We can find another way." "There is no other way." I deleted the presentation file, then dropped the USB drive into my champagne glass. She'll always be one step ahead, holding someone I love hostage. "So you're giving up?" "No." I watched the champagne fizz around the sinking drive. "I'm accepting that she won, that she'll always win." Mother appeared in the doorway, radiant in victory. "Catherine, the board members would love to hear more about your new role in the company." I stood, smoothing my dress. "Of course, Mother." "That's my girl." She touched my cheek, her fingers still cold. "You see? Family always comes first." As I followed her inside, I caught a glimpse of our reflection in the terrace doors. Mother and daughter, perfectly matched in black, perfectly poised. I couldn't tell which of us was the better liar anymore. The summer house stood dark against the twilight sky, its windows like empty eyes. I found Mother in Father's study, methodically feeding documents into a shredder. "I wondered when you'd come." She didn't look up. "Tom and Sophie left an hour ago. You just missed them." "I know. I sent them away." That made her pause. "Did you?" Emily helped. I moved closer, watching paper disappear into mechanical teeth. She's quite cooperative when she's not terrified. Emily's loyalty was always negotiable. Mother smiled thinly. Unlike yours, apparently. You taught me well. I picked up a half-shredded document. A familiar signature caught my eye. Not Father's forgery, but the original. Though I learned some lessons you didn't intend. Such as, always keep copies. I pulled out my phone, showing her the screen. Everything you're destroying, already uploaded to the cloud and to the DA's office. The shredder whirred to a stop. Mother's fingers tightened on its edge. You're bluffing. Like you bluffed about Sophie, about Tom's custody battle. I stepped closer. There was no evidence against Sarah, was there? Just another manipulation. I did what was necessary. She straightened, smoothing her blazer. To protect this family. No. The word felt like breaking glass. You did what was necessary to protect your control. There's a difference. Control is protection. Her voice hardened. Look what happened when your father lost control. When you tried to take it from me. I learned from the best. I moved to the window, watching shadows lengthen across the lawn. Did you ever wonder why I gave up so easily at the gala? Something flickered in her reflection. Uncertainty? You understood the consequences. I understood the opportunity. I turned back to her. Everyone watching you win. Everyone seeing you at your most triumphant. Your perfect moment. What have you done? Check your phone, Mother. The board's probably trying to reach you. She grabbed her phone, fingers trembling slightly as she scrolled. With each message, her face grew paler. Anonymous tips. My voice stayed steady. Bank records, witness statements, all pointing to your masterful takeover of the company, your brilliant manipulation of Father's downfall. They'll never believe. They already do. That's what happens when you craft such a perfect narrative. People want to believe the bigger story. The phone slipped from her hand. You're just like me, she whispered. That's what makes this work. I picked up her phone, showing her the growing cascade of messages. I learned from you that revenge isn't about destruction. It's about precision. I'll fight this. With what allies? Emily's testimony is already recorded. Tom's safe with Sophie beyond your reach. Even your social circle is turning. Amazing how quickly sympathy becomes scandal. She moved suddenly, reaching for the desk drawer where she kept her emergency files. I caught her wrist. Looking for these? I held up a key. Daniel cleared those out hours ago, while you were busy watching me. Catherine, her voice cracked slightly. I'm your mother. Yes. I released her wrist. That's why I'm giving you a choice. Something you never gave any of us. Her eyes narrowed. What choice? Resign quietly. Disappear to that villa in France you bought with Father's money. Or stay and fight. Watch everything you built crumble piece by piece. You wouldn't dare destroy this family's reputation. You already did that. I walked to the door. I'm just making sure everyone knows who's responsible. Catherine, her command voice, the one that used to make me freeze. Don't you walk away from me. I paused, hand on the doorknob. That's the difference between us, Mother. I learned how to walk away. You never could. I made you who you are. No. I looked back one last time. You showed me who I didn't want to become. The study door closed behind me with a soft click. Through it, I heard something shatter. A paperweight, maybe, or her carefully constructed world. Outside, Daniel waited in the car. Is it done? I watched lights begin to flicker on in the summer house windows, like stars emerging in a dark sky. Mother would be getting more calls soon, more messages, more consequences. Yes, I said, it's done. We drove away as night fell, leaving Mother alone with the ghosts of her machinations. I didn't look back. She'd taught me that too, never show weakness in victory. Some lessons stick, even when we don't mean them to. The French villa's gates opened silently, revealing manicured gardens bathed in Mediterranean sunshine. Mother's new sanctuary, bought with the remnants of her carefully hidden assets. She waited in the courtyard, thinner than I remembered, but still elegant in cream linen. 6 months hadn't dimmed her ability to command a space. "Catherine," she gestured to a table set for tea. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "Neither was I." I remained standing. "Father's awake. The doctors say he'll make a full recovery." From the breakdown I orchestrated. Her smile was bitter. How charitable of them. "He's taking back the company. Tom's helping him rebuild. And you?" She poured tea with steady hands. "Still playing vigilante with Daniel?" "Actually, I'm here about Sophie." I watched her fingers tighten on the porcelain. "She's graduating next month. Wants her grandmother there." "After everything you've done, after everything you did." I finally sat, meeting her gaze. "Sophie doesn't know the whole story. That's her gift to you. The choice is yours." Mother set down her cup. "You've gotten better at manipulation. I had an excellent teacher." "Yes." Something flickered in her eyes. Pride, regret. "Though I never expected you to surpass me." "Didn't you? Isn't that what you trained us for? To be perfect reflections of your ambition?" She stood abruptly, moving to the garden's edge. "I wanted you to be strong, to never need anyone's approval, while demanding our absolute loyalty. Protection requires control." "No," I joined her at the balustrade. "Protection requires trust, something you never learned." Below us, gardeners tended Mother's immaculate roses. Everything perfectly ordered, perfectly controlled, even in exile. "I received your wedding invitation," she said quietly. "Did you burn it like the others?" "I kept it," she turned, studying my face. "You look happy, despite everything." "Not despite, because." I touched the balustrade's sun-warmed stone. "You taught me what to avoid becoming. That's worth something." Such a diplomatic way to thank me for being a cautionary tale. "Would you prefer I thanked you for showing me how power corrupts, or how loyalty can become poison?" Her laugh held no humor. "Still so righteous, so certain of your moral high ground?" "No." I met her gaze steadily. "Just certain that there are better ways to love." "Love," she spat the word like venom. "Love is weakness. I made you strong." "You made me afraid. There's a difference." Inside the villa, a phone rang. Mother tensed, old habits dying hard, always waiting for the next crisis, the next battle. "Sophie's graduation is on the 15th, I said, turning to leave. "There's a ticket to Nice in the invitation, if you want it." "Catherine," her voice stopped me. "Do you ever wonder if you're becoming me? Using people's weaknesses, manipulating outcomes?" "Every day." I looked back. "That's what makes me different. I choose not to." Choice is an illusion we create to feel better about our nature. Maybe. I reached the courtyard gate. Or maybe it's the only thing that separates us from our worst instincts. "Will you come back?" The question held an unfamiliar note, uncertainty. "That depends." "On what?" "On whether you're ready to be a mother instead of a puppet master." I left her there, framed by roses and regret, her tea growing cold on the table. Daniel waited in the rental car, asking nothing but holding my hand as we drove away. My phone buzzed with a message from Sophie. Did she say yes? I watched Mother's villa disappear in the rearview mirror, thinking of choices and consequences, of love and control, of the fine line between protection and possession. "We'll see," I typed back. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in destroying someone's world, but in letting them glimpse a better one, and leaving them to decide if they're brave enough to change. Mother had taught me that too, though she never meant to. Some lessons cut deeper than others, leaving scars that shape us into something stronger than steel, more resilient than pride, something like hope,